Good morning. Good morning.
There goes the neighborhood.
And there was much rejoicing.
Didn't your meds kick in yet?
We got David Lefkowitz here. He's a Long Island arts guy. He's got his own radio show.
I want you all to really enjoy a wonderful program done by a fine artist.
A glorious thing of unparalleled beauty.
Dave's gone by. Dave is one of my very favorite broadcasters, so keep on listening to Mr. Dave.
Tropical hot dog night.
Well, there goes the neighborhood. Good morning, everybody, and happy April 7th to you. April 7th, 2018, here in the neighborhood in cold but sunny and invariably beautiful Greeley, Colorado. I'm Dave Lefkowitz, the host and producer of the Dave's Gone By radio program of The Stream, every Saturday from 9 until noon or thereabouts, courtesy, at least for a little while longer, of the auspices of the University of Northern Colorado here in Greeley. I got my darling and adorable wife, Joyce, here, although she's trying to fix one of our alternate computers in case we start having problems with this one, which we probably will, this being Dave's Gone By and this being UNC. But hello, my darling dear. How are you?
Good. I'm not well.
Oh, wow. I hope this mic picks her up here. But she's, you've been having what? Like allergy, nausea? Did you say, what did you say? She said something off mic. Like that's a joke I would make, and then you would say, "Dave, don't make that joke, or I'll leave." But it's good to see you here.
I want to watch you whip, and I want to watch you nay.
You want to watch me both whip and nay.
Yes.
I don't know if I can do both. The dog got me up by a 4:45 today.
I know I was up in the nighttime. He wakes me up.
Well, yeah. First he gets me up.
Or 3:30 is usually like, hey.
It's
time for fun.
Then he crawls back onto the bed, steps on your head to go back to sleep.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then he sleeps, and I cuddle with him. He's nice and warm. He's got a lot of fur. That's good.
Yeah, well, that's our beloved dog who is...
He likes to whip and nay.
16 years old.
No, he's 16 years old. He was born the 19th of March.
Right.
So he's going towards 16 1 month. He's approaching.
Oh, well, yeah, knock wood. You know, every day that we have him at this point, I mean, he's already lived longer than our other dog who lived forever.
But he was sick. He had more chronic, comorbid stuff. This one, because he's mixed with Terrier and Dachshund, the Danny Dinmont.
Yeah.
He's just healthy. He's
knock wood, yeah. And meanwhile, what about him? What about me, Mommy? This is Potato.
You have no shoes, no hat, nothing. What's up with that?
Yeah, well, but he has outlived.
Write the word of the day, David, because I don't know if I have energy to.
So one of the segments that we do every week on Dave's Gone By is called Dave's Big Dictionary, where my wife will randomly thumb through No, you don't get to look. You just get to poke and choose.
But then I can't read it.
Okay, then let me see what you just chose.
You poke and then I'll...
All right, well, so we've already had like a malfunction. Let's see. Gotta thumb through it. Wait, I'll hold it, and then I'll open to a page, and then you poke your finger without looking. That's what she said. All right, here we go. Okay. Just do a poke.
Which one are you doing?
No, you're...
Okay, this one.
Show me exactly where your finger is. That's what she said.
It's in the middle of one. Do it again.
Well, no, the middle is fine.
No,
all right. Okay, we can try this one more time. It's Dave's Big Dictionary. Here we go. Oh, that's probably going to be a D or an E word.
Oh, God.
Uh-oh. Now, I have been getting such good ones the past bunch of weeks. I had words... What were they? There was... What were some of the words? I had this.
There's different versions. This is the 6th.
Nocturne... Roundup, snobbery, spleen, ultra, bottom, but last week I had to do erythrocyte, which was great fun. So again, Joyce will put her finger randomly into the dictionary, and then my job much later in the show is to think of some story, some anecdote, some tale from my life to relate to the word. Joyce says this word might actually relate to our other segment, Storytime, where we've been reading A Cow for Hansel. I hope you're all really excited about this. It's Erna Holyer's book from 1967 about a Nazi-ish German lad and being unable tragically, to afford a cow, all he can afford is a goat. So, exciting stuff here in the neighborhood. So the word that
Must be budgeting at UNC.
no, wait a minute. That's the word?
Yeah, because it's the 6th version of it. There's like
That's not fair. I get to use that version?
yeah, that's what you said, and that's the one that came up. So.
Or as I said on my wedding night, I got to use that version? Thank you. All right, let's see. The word is down. Okay, there's a million places I could go with the word down. Problem is, Joyce's finger landed...
Your finger.
Was it my finger? Okay, it was my finger. Landed all the way down on the word. And so the definition I've got to use, apparently, is a rolling a rolling treeless upland with sparse soil, usually used plurally, like downs. Oh! Like the...
System of a down.
Yeah, or syndrome of a down, which my parents thought I had. Ho-ho! There we go. So I get it. It's like downs. Yeah, like Churchill Downs.
Yes.
Oh boy. Thanks,
So
babe.
use plural.
Oh, lordy.
Yeah, that's when you look, and I even drew little grass.
Oh, it's beautiful. That's Hans's
Would you
cow.
like to post it on Facebook so people could go learn along.
If you'll
Yes, I'll get my
make it. I can't physically do anything right now except the show, but yeah. Welcome all the folks who are watching and listening on Facebook, including Mary Jo and Gary and Frank and Karen from my old library and Art Paul. Art Paul, by the way, you can type to me here, Art Paul, did you get your prize? Because Art Paul won the contest 2 weeks ago of Jackie the Joke Man Martling autographed a copy of his joke book from many, many years ago. And people were sending in their emails of jokes, and one was picked randomly. And the winner was Art Paul Schlosser, our great street singing friend. It's a very pretty tree you drew there. So Art Paul got it. Oh boy. So I did warn you, Art Paul, that the jokes in there are not, considering your humor and... some of the things that I assume page by page you've just gone with a black magic marker. Art Paul Schlosser says, of the Jackie Martling book, he liked the turtle joke.
Could you sit forward so you're...
Kindly... Oh, you're going to take a picture of me now?
like this, look.
Yeah, okay. Now, how about this?
Like this. Your chest.
Joyce is taking a picture of me, which I never mind.
No, you're
Just give me a moment.
You're sticking your tummy out still.
Oh, I'm trying to sit forward. I'm trying to
you're
sit
doing
like
this.
so I'm trying to do like
Like
this?
this. Hunching forward.
This sweater gives me a belly.
No, but you're sitting with...
Like this I should be.
Like this, look. No.
What are you doing? Here.
That's good, yeah, that's cute, okay.
One moment, folks. This is high culture in Greeley, Colorado right now.
Okay, I'm going to send that to you too.
Yay. So we'll have more pictures. I posted finally.
Look how cute you look.
Oh, that's a good shot.
Yeah, I'm going to send it.
Good lighting. I finally posted the camel castration picture on Facebook. So, folks, if you haven't seen it yet, that picture is actually more than a year old. It's when we were bringing our late dog to Fort Collins for various treatments. And it was on a day when they were taking... What?
This is so Freudian. Instead of writing your email address, I wrote hobo.
Oh, okay.
Because, the hobo alerts of...
Yeah. That day we were there, the whole weekend, they were doing camel, llama, and dromedary castrations.
Castration.
Well, what's a camelid?
Camelid is a camel, llama.
I just said that.
Yeah, but a camelid is a broader,
Oh, yeah, camels, llamas, alpacas, yeah. Or as they call themselves afterwards, alpacas. Which is ironic that you would castrate a llama, because after that it can't hump. Thank you very much.
No, camels have hump. Llamas don't have humps, do they?
Camels have humps.
Yeah.
Llamas, do they?
Humps, no.
Oh, well, come with me tonight, my little llama. Anyway, a lot of people like that picture, so I'm glad you did. And Art Paul wrote in, here's the turtle joke, the one joke that is repeatable from Jackie the Joke Man Martling's book.
I think Art Paul should get a gold star for finding anything you can actually type or read.
All right, here we go.
That's pretty profane, yeah.
Where do you find a turtle with no legs?
Where?
Exactly where you left him. That's funny.
That's horrible.
I love that.
Horrible. Art Paul, shame.
Is that he didn't write it?
Jacques Hughes.
Anywho,
So I sent you your glamour shot too.
Go. So I've got a glamour. It really looked good on the phone, I gotta say.
My phone, I love Samsung. If it had Word on the tablet, I'd get it. I love Samsung.
Well, what would it be to download or get a copy
I don't
of
know.
Word?
Some tablets don't allow you to have standard word processing.
I know, when I take a Tylenol, it's got no word processing on it. Not even Excel. That's a tablet joke. No, don't throw things at me.
That's my tissue.
I need to use this, but you got the sound machines when I make
have
jokes.
nothing. You have you don't even have a...
What? See, this is classy radio circa 1967. The ABC Good Guys. Oh, no, it was WMCA, I think it was. Anyway, speaking of classic broadcasters, Chauncey has joined us. Welcome, Chauncey. I say this every week.
What?
Chauncey, I'm trying to get, I send you a message. I want you on the show.
Can I explain something?
What?
He's not that into you. Okay, let me just explain something, okay? When you write someone or you text someone or you email
I've sent him
someone
flowers.
and you send flowers and you get a restraining order, it means they're not that into you.
Basket of Greeley and chocolates.
No. I think you would like probably the Ghirardelli. They're much better. Maybe
they are.
Dove.
Yeah.
You bought that 17-pound Dove Easter bunny, so you might as well send that to him.
No, we didn't buy it.
Oh.
It was $5. I'm
You
not
could
buy.
have bought it and given it to Chauncey.
I
That
could
would have
have.
done it. That
Would have melted in the mail.
No, that would have turned him around. I'm telling
Maybe.
you.
Well, it's an open invitation, Chauncey, to talk about your
Show him
years
the
on
milk
TV.
Bottle. Maybe that'll
Yeah,
entice him.
we'll even have free milk if you want.
Show you want your tea here?
Yeah, well, no, I put it in the fridge. That's a relatively warm one.
Maybe he likes mint tea.
If you like mint tea, Chauncey, there you go.
Yeah.
So, open invitation, Chauncey. We'd love to have you on the show because we had Roberto Tarago from Channel 11.
You've had a lot of people. My favorite one was, what's her name? Suzanne Simmons.
Sylvie Simmons, the singer and the
No, I'm getting
rock journalist.
I'm not well.
Who did I have?
I don't know.
And by have, I do not mean in a biblical way. But anyway, welcome to Chauncey and welcome to Ralph. And let me tell you what else is going to be on this radio program of the stream. So we're calling it Dartboard because our guest in the neighborhood is a writer who hit one out of the park. She wrote a book. As a matter of fact, she wrote a novel, and the novel didn't sell very well at all. Then she wrote another novel, because that's what writers do. And that novel was called Beaches. And that got her first novel.
Did you ever know that you're my hero?
Now, this, by the way, she also had a background in television. She wrote for Sonny and Cher show. She worked on an Odd Couple episode, Iris Rayner Dart. And then she wrote a bunch of other books.
Is that her real name?
Dart. Dart. Yeah. Who knows what it was before Ellis Island, 100 years ago. But it is Iris Rayner Dart, a Jewish lady.
A Jewish lady.
And we know this because one of the things that she has done is write the book to a Broadway musical. And that musical was called The People in the Picture. It ran about half a decade ago. Didn't get the best reviews necessarily, didn't run that long. But I know my aunt saw it. She loved it. A lot of Jewish people got into it. They knew what was, the high-level critics, they want, somebody's gay, that's important, but Jewish, not so important anymore. So the musical did not do very well. It's getting another chance. They're going to be doing The People in the Picture in Los Angeles. Let's see where.
Oh, maybe our friend could see it.
Well, maybe. Maybe. I want to make sure. I'm not sure if it's Berkeley or where.
Is it a university rep?
Let me see. It's in San Jose. At the Three Below Theater. The People in the Picture will be playing April 12th through May 13th at the, threebelowtheater.com for more information about that. Not only that, Iris Rayner Dart has been working for a while on a musical adaptation of Beaches. Erd. But that adaptation of Beaches into a musical is going to be trying out in London in just a few months.
You know what would have made it a hit?
What?
If they did some otter juggling.
Oh, let's talk about that. Let's
not.
Well, we have a new meme on this program recently because of the wonderful story that we had.
Just tell people, Google the words otter juggling stones, and you'll see otters juggling.
Yeah, don't do it now because I want you to listen to my show. I I don't want to tell this in a too complicated way, but 3 weeks ago on Greeley Crimes and Old Times, we had a story about these people who they were on like their 40th wedding anniversary. They were taking a camping vacation.
So sad. So
And-
horrific.
And they're paddling. They're in canoes and
Lovely,
boats and
such
stuff.
a beautiful scene.
And suddenly, the wife, the woman in the boat, and the husband is on the boat in front. She's on the little canoe in back. And she's like, oh, look, an otter. And immediately, this rabid feral otter jumps onto her, starts clawing her face off, clawing her skin, clawing her back. They start beating the otter off of her with an oar. And what's beautiful is when they asked the husband about the incident, he was saying, well, I was paddling along, and then I heard a voice say, oh, look, an otter. And then I heard screaming.
Yeah, but why did he say I heard a voice? Why wouldn't he say I hear my
Or
wife?
my wife's voice, yeah.
He
So,
doesn't know his wife's voice after all those years.
so that's part one of our otter odyssey at the moment. But then otters have been on my brain, so I made that part of a quiz that I gave my English composition students this past week in terms of there was a dumb little thing. I wanted them to, in essay format, since it's English comp, I asked them to write a letter to the folks running the Greeley Stampede and saying, hey, look.
And just say it
yeah,
involved otter juggling. You can't go into too much detail.
What? Oh, I'm not mentioning any students' names. How's that a FERPA violation?
It's not. Just don't say anything.
Okay. Anyway, well, but that sounds even weirder. If I say I gave composition instructions and somewhere in there juggling live otters was involved, that's a lot worse than actually explaining what.
I wonder why Chauncey doesn't want to be on your show.
Exactly, yeah. Well, I'll tell you, at least he's listening, and so is John, and so is Joseph.
In all of his life, I'm sure he's never otter juggled.
Well, he's done otter things with his life. So that was in there. But the thing is, otters are really, really cute, but they can be vicious even when they're not rabid. Yeah. But we were looking yesterday, just for no reason, on...
Because we have no life.
Truly. On YouTube, and we were looking for someone who was actually physically
But
juggling otters.
juggle stones, and they think because they use them... So otters are one of the few, like, I guess, they're mammals. I guess they have live birth. And they use stones as tools to open like mollusks or clams when they're eating. So they have all these pictures of little marmots lying on their back.
No, otters.
I'm sorry, otters. And they're on their backs and they're tossing and juggling. And some of them have real game, like they think like basketball players.
Runs down their arm,
and
they
then
grab
they throw
it,
they use their head. Yeah, it's like Pele, you know, the otter version of Pele.
And they actually said, and this is true, they'll keep it, they'll hide it. An otter may keep,
in the underarm skin, the little flaps of their underarm skin.
An otter may keep the same stone
they don't have
for
pockets.
its entire life.
But they don't have pockets, you know.
Well, they should.
It's like you keep your keys in your pocket. They keep their stone in their.
Well, how many years have I been saying that otters should make friends with kangaroos? It would make so much sense.
No, but then they'd have to the kangaroos aren't under the water.
Right. So otters could do. And by the way, the otters we saw juggling were all on land. They were all on grassy, sort of near
but
lakey
they were
things.
They have to be near water. They
right.
can't just hop in a kangaroo.
So if let's say, an otter feels like eating a pineapple.
Yeah.
They can't get it. They can't go up a tree and get it. They can get their friend the kangaroo.
The kangaroo can't climb a tree. He can hop.
No, but kangaroo can kick. He can kick the tree on land.
It's not like Chuck Norris.
The pineapple will
Texas
fall.
Walker kangaroo. I'm gonna get you. Doom.
And then they need to make a deal with an elephant to step on the pineapple, so that it opens. The kangaroo can get the juice.
What's his face? The otter can use his rock.
Yes,
Yeah.
they can bring. So they don't need the elephant. No. Screw the elephant. No, they just need the kangaroo.
Yeah.
And the otter. A kangaroo can bring back a couple of coconuts.
Yeah.
Otter can smash them. You can share.
Maybe the kangaroo could take the otter in his pouch like a baby.
Could.
That'd be cute.
Yeah, just for day trips to the city.
Yeah, somewhere. Yeah.
Anyway, where the hell are we going with this? It's the Dave's Gone By radio program of the stream.
I don't know where we're at.
Well, go
Tell
find
them your
otter
special
juggling.
guest is lovely.
Iris
more
Rainer
about your
Dart.
guest, yeah.
Well, I've told you all these things you need to know. She wrote Beaches. She's working on the musical of Beaches. And her
I hope
People
she
in
does
Pictures.
well. A lot of people were very moved by that. It was very moving for a lot of ladies.
You're talking about Beaches.
Yeah.
They even remade it. I forgot about this with Idina Menzel and a year or two ago on TV.
I hope that she does well.
Well, yeah, me too. So, unfortunately, I don't get to talk to her.
No.
Because she is Jewish. She has such a Jewish background. Iris Rainer Dart will be talking to the one, the only, the Jewish Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. And so I have a feeling it's got some really cool and Jewish questions to ask Iris Rainer Dart, our guest in the neighborhood, in a while from now. It's going to be over an hour that she'll be here.
Wow.
So folks who are tuning in now, do not complain. The show runs from 9
till 11 p.m.
I always get the first timers who they're tuning in specifically for the guest, which is great. We hope they'll enjoy the guest and then learn to like the show and stay with the show as a whole. But sometimes you get the people who are like, I tuned in for so and so, and it's 9:08, and where is he? And it's like, you gotta wait. We take our time here. This is freeform-esque radio streamishness. It's what I do. It's what I've been doing since October of 2002, when the very first Dave's Gone By went on the air, back on Long Island, on a little radio station that still exists, barely. And here I am on another radio station that barely exists, barely. So if you want to hear that first episode we ever did, remember you can go to davesgoneby.com, DAVESGONEBY.com. It's right there, first in the archives. And after it are 645 more shows. Just about. There's a couple that we lost in the ozone just through technical difficulties or my own mistakes. But out of the 646 Dave's Gone By episodes that we have done, we've saved in some form, for the most part, about 643 or 44 of them. It's rather extraordinary. And they're all there in the archives at davesgoneby.com. All the music, all the comedy, if that's what you can call this, all the special guests, all the fun, davesgoneby.com. And if you want to drop me a line, davesgoneby@aol.com is the way to do it. Or, of course, you can message me at our Facebook page, Radio Dave Lefkowitz. Oh, okay, great, fine. So
about a half hour.
Yeah, fine. Fantastic. Yeah. Don't be telling it into the mic. Yeah. Let me tell what else is going to be on this episode of the show. Aside from Rabbi Sol and Iris Rainer Dart, we've got Inside Broadway, because we always love to talk about the theater. Let me just make sure I've got a breaking news thing here. Oh, well, that's gone. What are they booing or yaying? Goal
like,
for.
Oh! It's because the sound machine was under probably our groceries, and it gets all messed up.
That's true. Then what else are we doing? Oh, as I mentioned, don't forget.
Could you dance like Selena?
No, I cannot. A
Bitty,
cow for
bitty,
Hansel.
bum, bum.
More of that. And then, what else? Dave's Bing Dictionary and a Saturday segue of songs in the news. And, I guess it's going to be exciting, instituting a brand new segment on the Dave's Gone By radio program of the stream. It's called Colorado Limericks of the Damned. Yes? I've been trying to come up with limericks for all the different cities and towns here in Colorado.
Yeah, you're going to start with Fort Lupton, I bet you.
No, we're
there
putting
once
them in
was a girl from Fort Lupton.
Yes, and trying to figure out some rhymes for that one. And please understand, and I will warn Art Paul and everybody else listening, we'll do this quite a bit later in the show, because it's me and my show. Many of these limericks are absolutely filthy, obscene, and vile. That's kind of their raison d'etre. So I will warn you now that our Colorado Limericks of the Damned, there's a reason they're called
This
that.
is a good thing for that. Wait, say it.
Do it. Colorado Limericks of the Damned.
Sci-fi.
Yeah. So we're going to do one of these a week for many weeks.
If he wants a shake.
Yes,
Pepito.
Pepito. Would you, when Mommy goes to get a shake for Dave, me, in a bit, what flavor? Ketchup? Well, no, they don't have ketchup.
I can put ketchup in it.
Can you add ketchup
Sure.
to a vanilla shake?
Sure.
And I think this is Pepito. He's our little potato friend.
Make him wave.
Hi.
Oh,
Thank you. He's so cute.
he's
isn't he?
adorable.
Yeah. Oh, time for his bottle. So anyway, so I think I've told you everything that's going to be on this episode there of the show. Feeding time. Uh-oh, hold on. How do I do this on camera? There. No, there. Okay. Okay.
When will your meds kick in, honey?
I wish I knew.
When,
I wish I knew.
When?
Oh! Before we
What?
do Greeley Crimes at All Times. All right, let's see if
Hey,
we
David,
can...
where does a turtle with no legs? Where do you find a turtle with no legs?
I don't know. Where do you find a turtle with no legs?
I don't know. Ask Art Paul.
So, wanted to talk about this. I think this is a cool thing. Months ago,
Yes.
before we started doing the Facebook feed, really, especially,
Yeah.
and for the several years that we've been doing this program, I did more music. I've stopped playing as much music because if I play too much music, Facebook stops the feed because it senses a copyright problem.
Yeah.
YouTube gives me problems when I post the show and it doesn't, let me play. So you'll notice now I only do one Saturday Segue instead of two. And sometimes I'll even cut the songs after a minute or so rather than playing the songs through. It's become more of a talk show even now than it ever was. Not just because I
Same
like
as
to
it
talk.
ever was.
Yeah. No, but just because I'm trying to avoid technical crap. And if we end up going off out of this radio station and just going on Facebook, and then it really will be mostly a talk show.
You can bring your keyboard and start playing your fancy songs.
Oh, I could.
Yeah.
I could and
You
will.
can bring your guitar and start doing your mariachi.
Because I may have absolutely no musical talent, but at least I own the copyright to the crap that I create.
I think that's like, that's the way to go.
So one of the segments that we would do, we did it for a few years here, was Bob Dylan, Sooner and Later, excuse me, where we would play a couple of different Bob Dylan songs, because he's my favorite composer, writer, singer-songwriter of all time. Most important, probably,
Except for
in
the
modern
last 10
American.
years.
Well, yeah, okay. So we would play some Bob Dylan, 3 or 4 songs, and of course immediately YouTube would not allow me, and etc. So I stopped doing it. But I still follow Bob Dylan. I still love his music, especially from 25, 35 years ago. He's still releasing music. But this is very cool. This is what happened this week. If you've heard about this, there's an EP being put out by a couple of different artists. And the EP is to celebrate and honor the LGBTQ community, which is great, which is fine. I forget the other folks who are on the EP.
It's probably Kesha's on everything. It's probably Kesha.
Probably Kesha.
Probably DJ Khalid.
People, or John Mayer, those kind of folks. I'm not sure.
John Mayer's from the 80s.
He's still, isn't? Oh, all right. John Legend, then. I don't know. Wiz Khalifa and Cardi B. I don't know these freaking people.
Cardi B, my dude. She'd be like, yeah, that's right.
But
I'm Cardi B.
They asked
I'm from the Bronx.
Bob Dylan to take. Now, Dylan
I miss the Bronx.
was known as he never, this is a label that was thrown on him. He never liked it, but he was a protest singer in the 63 to 64 era, wrote about things in the news. You love your Hattie carols. I mean, he was political. And here and there, he would get political, like the song George Jackson or Hurricane. But generally, he actually was more in his own head from 65 on. It wasn't about, this is wrong with the world. It's just, this is the way my crazy Bob Dylan head sees the universe. So for him to speak politically or do politically, he wasn't like Neil Young.
Well,
he wasn't
now
like
that he won the, what did he win?
the Nobel.
Yeah, I mean, so he feels he has nothing to prove now.
Right. Maybe. But they asked him.
Yeah.
And he said yes. He said yes to this project.
He force people to listen to his god-awful singing.
No, but he's never had any kind of commentary about gay, straight. He was a born-again Christian for a bunch of years, so he was probably kind of, one can sense, maybe a little biblical fire and brimstone, don't have sex with your same gender thing.
You don't know. No, well...
I wonder. I wonder in those times. But I think it's very cool that Dylan said yes to this project. He wouldn't be interviewed about it. He didn't want to talk about it. And what he did was, he took an old classic song and redid it in a way,
to torture,
changing the pronouns.
He just likes to torture people with this new type of singing.
Well,
he's not Sinatra and he's not a crooner.
You will never get into this new style, will you?
To my
All right, we're going to play a little of it because of course, Facebook will shut us down if we play too much. But this was Bob Dylan, brand new. Well, yeah, what time? It's not even, it's 25 after 9. Let's play a little of this, and we'll do Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Oh, Potato just fell. Okay.
He's trying to knock himself out so he doesn't have to hear it.
Okay, here, Robert Zimmerman appealing in his way to the LGBTQZWXMP. What's TI?
Transitioning.
Oh, good God, yeah. Really? Yeah, how many? What else?
And advocates, A.
Really?
Yeah, or pansexual people, P.
P, really? Are there any others? How about, is there a both thing?
Just say the rainbow.
Well, the rainbow just means gay to me. It just means the rainbow quilt.
It's the rainbow of all the different derivations, so.
All right, fine. Better, yeah. This is, and actually, if you look on our YouTube video, someone put it literally against a rainbow, if you can see that. Yeah, so.
The spectrum of, expression.
That's right. The spectrum of the rectum, as I like to say. Oh, here's Bob Dylan, ladies and gentlemen. Huh? Isn't that nice? Yeah, you really can't get into it.
I love the idea, but
yeah,
he just it's like when Rod Stewart thought he was Sinatra. You can't just change your singing style and then adapt a new one and expect people to go with it.
Well, first of all, Rod Stewart has had tremendous success
I don't care.
doing standards.
Yeah, because he's a good-looking, punky,
no, he's got
man.
In the right song, Rod Stewart can get it over, including a lot of cover versions. Look at Carly Simon; she did some very nice.
No, I'm sorry, no.
Okay. No. All right. Anyway, well, kudos at least for the attempt.
I would pay to see Bob Dylan sing. Do you think I'm sexy?
Yes, I would.
You think
yeah, I would pay to see. I would pay to see Bob Dylan juggle live otters
while wearing a leopard skin leotard, singing "Do You Think I'm Sexy?"
Well, he'll already be wearing the pillbox hat, so he doesn't need to wear the leotard. Oh, yes, we're mentally leotarded here in the neighborhood. I'm Dave Lefkowitz. That's my wife Joyce. It's 9:40. Oh my God, it's 9:40 already. Wow. I guess that's signaling that it's time for a segment that we love to do here in Dave's Gone By. It's called Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Ba-da-da-da, for the indeed we. Oh, by the way, not that I don't know why we congratulate him, but because I've never actually met him, but at least he's out there muckraking a bit. Tyler Silby of the Greeley Tribune.
Isn't he off the UNC though?
He was doing the UNC beat for a while and basically telling the world everything that's wrong with our university. So that has led to a promotion. He's now deputy editor of the Greeley Tribune. I don't know.
Does that mean you carry a gun if you're a deputy editor, like Barney Fife? I mean,
I wonder.
What's a deputy?
I guess Randy is training him to
be editor, or like editor in training. Wow.
Maybe.
Moving on up.
Yeah.
Rise up.
So So Tyler.
I see Citizen Kane coming on here.
Yeah, I don't know why I care because I've never met him, but it's just I like someone who's digging into the interstices.
You like Upton Sinclair and those muckrakers.
Rather have Kate Upton Sinclair, but I don't know what that means.
I'm gonna kick you.
Yeah,
she's
gonna kick me.
If I had any energy and I wasn't, sickly. Go ahead, read the Greeley
Crimes.
Okay,
well, tell people what Greeley Crimes and Old Times is.
David reads stuff in the paper that Mike Peters decides to collate, but they're not really scary. Mike Peters said in the past it was people who were imbibing substances, but now it's people who I think just need help, maybe not from the police in the way they think, but it's good they're reaching out to someone.
Exactly. Yeah. These are folks who call the police department, the dispatch, and say help
quite
for
frequently.
Interesting reasons. And also we mix those in with stories that were in the newspapers 100 years ago locally. So it's kind of cool. And by the way, welcome to Katie and Michael and Nancy, who says, "Morning, Dave." Hey, morning, Nancy. And and John, who runs that that musical theater. I guess he still puts out CDs, but I don't know. It might just be digital now.
I think they're called now on the iTunes.
Could be.
It's called the iTunes.
Anyway, are you ready for some Greeley Crimes and Old Times?
I'm ready.
Police received... Oh, this is good. Here we go. Oh, we're starting off on a good one.
8th and 8th?
No. Police received a call from a store
Oh, wow.
on 26th Street and
Stores are
11th
calling.
Avenue.
Okay. Wait, 26th
And
and 11th?
11th, yeah.
11th, okay.
Is that over near where Taiwan is and that? Or
No.
off to the other side?
Oh, yeah, you got it.
Or
That's
maybe on the other
good.
side of the block where
It's probably Walgreens or one of those folks.
Cost
you know?
Plus Food is, yeah.
Cost Plus Food. No.
The store employee said a customer had, quote, pooped his pants.
Wait. Keep going.
Yeah. No, let's let that one sink in, quite literally.
Wait.
Guy goes into a store, poops his pants. Then he took his pants off and sat on a pet bed, which he refused to pay for. Okay.
Oh,
By the time employees called police, however, he had put his pants back on. Yeah.
who wants that pet bed?
I don't know. It's like if you want a memory of your old sick dog, you don't want to buy a new bed.
No.
You want to buy a bed that reminds you of what your dog did to it.
No,
Yeah.
that's called E. coli Central. Oh my God, that poor employee. I feel bad. Whoever that was should have got a bonus for combat pay. That's
Oh,
nasty.
heck yeah. They should put him in a
least-
cage.
Hopefully it was Walgreens and they had gloves. That's all I'm hoping.
Now here, again, reminder, especially when we do the ones that are from 100 years ago.
Yeah.
This is verbatim
Okay.
from the Greeley Tribune Republican, or whatever the newspaper was called back then in
Republican,
1918.
Republican.
The Tripublican, okay. So I'm reading this verbatim. This is not my language. This is the newspaper here in Weld County and their story, okay? You ready? A 13-year-old Polak boy...
Oh my God.
Yep. A 13-year-old Polak boy in Frederick, Colorado, was arrested today after he threatened his teacher with a large axe.
The more things change.
Now, if there are any students from my English 122 class, don't get any ideas, all right?
Oh, that's horrible. I think he's a descendant of Lizzie Borden.
Well, check this out. When he raised the axe,
Yeah.
the small teacher,
Yeah.
Anna Dickey, so he raised it to this little woman.
Oh.
She wrestled the axe away from him and told him to leave the school.
That's awesome.
He will be facing charges today in Greeley.
I swear, David, like, you don't want to be wrestling someone for an axe. Like, that's a bad Monday.
Oh, and I you know what? It was an AX 15. So it had several blades. It could chop
That's
very
just,
quickly.
Like, good Lord.
Yeah. True
They
story.
never reenact that at Centennial Village in the schoolhouse. You know, those things they don't reenact, right?
Yeah. Well, Rattlesnake Kate probably.
Yeah, she probably did.
Yeah. Anyway, police received a call from... Gotta be on the stick there with the voice, with the noises. Police received a call from 81st Avenue.
Oh, it has an 8 in it.
The caller said
Yeah.
she found a camera in a flower vase in her home.
Ooh, that's creepy.
Now, her husband is a trucker who has gone often. Police said he denies putting it there, but he doesn't need a report. Wow. So...
Come on,
Yeah.
you know what that is. He wants to make sure his wife isn't getting a little, afternoon delight.
He wants to make sure that she's still putting two lips on the piano and not two lips on someone's organ. That's comedy right there, right here in the neighborhood. We got 15 minutes left. We got a bunch of these to do. And we're not even going to be here next week, so we got to get a bunch of these done. At the Sterling Theater in downtown... At the Sterling Theater, which is no relation to the Ogden Theater. The Sterling Theater, that's an in-joke that nobody will... Anyway, there will be a one-night concert of a famous and popular traveling band. And I repeat, I'm reading this verbatim from 100 years ago in the newspapers. The very famous and popular traveling band who were called... the Inimitable Pickaninnies.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. This is like racism paper, right?
What an understanding town we used to be, yeah. Tickets are 55 cents, wow. 83 cents, and $1.10.
You probably get a meal.
That's a lot of money back then. That's like a $10 ticket for in 1918.
Yeah, it's like when you see the regional versions of shows, they're not that much cheaper.
Well, yeah, that's
If
true.
they bring Wicked, and it's not, you're not going to get, Adina, what is it?
Idina Menzel and
You're going to
Kristen
get
Chenoweth,
someone
yeah.
else, but it's not going to be much. It's going to be cheaper, but not much.
When I saw the Inimitable Pickaninnies at the Palace Theater in New York, it was about $3.50 back when I saw it, but it was worth it. It was worth it. They had the wetbacks open for them.
God, could you imagine? It's like you just don't, you don't understand.
The Greasy Armenians were going to be the house band.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Wasn't it on Ridiculousness where they were talking about how the Wizards got their name in Florida or something? One of the teams.
How did they get there?
They were making fun of it, like with the Klan or Wizards. It's not true.
Oh no!
But it's like that kind of humor. It's like, my God. For
Yeah,
real?
well, yeah.
I mean, it's just mind-boggling.
I mean, come on! It has corn syrup, so I don't buy it anymore.
Yeah.
But when I was growing up, Aunt Jemima syrup.
Yeah.
Friggin' Aunt Jemima.
Yeah, or Uncle Ben's rice and all this kind of, You're right. That's a very good point, honey.
Yeah. Anyway, President Wilson, we are going back a while, President Woodrow Wilson signed the Daylight Savings Bill.
Oh, that's the scourge of many people.
Which will mean there will be a longer day measured by sunlight. People will get up an hour earlier, go to work an hour earlier. Yeah.
I reset your clock here, David.
Oh, thank you.
So it's the right time and the right day. Isn't that good?
Yeah, no, thank you for doing that. So get up an hour earlier, go to work an hour earlier, and get off an hour earlier. Nice. It means they'll have more sunlight to work in the garden or to drive the wheels off their automobiles. I like that.
That doesn't sound like fun.
Drive the wheels off their automobiles sounds like a lot of fun.
AAA.
Yeah, it could be.
Drive the wheels off your automobile.
2 Wyoming Cowboys.
Oh, here we
go. Give me the
hold
yeehaw.
on.
Do I have a yeehaw?
Yeah, we do.
They were arrested by state officers yesterday when they had 31 bottles of whiskey in their possession. The Cowboys said they were on their way to a ranch to break the horses, and they needed the booze for strength.
Yeah, I would think so. If you're breaking horses, you need something.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. They were soon released and returned back to Brokeback Mountain.
You can make a lot of money selling that booze. It's like now with the marijuana. If you sell the booze like that, you sell it per glass, you could make a lot of money.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, that's why else would you bootleg? But Prohibition... Oh, this was a dry county. That's why.
Yeah. You can't bring alcohols. No
Oh,
alcohols.
check this out. False news has been reported about Greeley. Fake news then? Yeah, 100 years ago in the newspapers. False news has been reported about Greeley, Colorado. Some newspapers have said diseases are overrunning the town.
Whoa.
It's called the Montforts. Just kidding.
Oh, wait, here we go. Wait, I need this. Where's the kiss? Here we go.
At this time, Greeley had only 3 cases of typhoid fever.
Oh, thank God.
Well, 3 cases of scarlet fever and 2 cases of smallpox.
Oh.
And 6 cases of illegal whiskey. And they're saying that those other newspapers were falsely reporting large numbers of diseases here. Wow. Okay. I don't know.
Stay away from your Fort Lupton, then everyone's cool.
Don't touch my Lupton.
I know, you love
Don't touch my Lupton. And you heard about that whole Sinclair Sinclair Network, Sinclair station thing, right? This week. No, this is not a joke. This is, and I'm sure you've seen it if you've watched the news or social media, where the management of Sinclair, which is the biggest owner of broadcast stations all over America, handed down a short speech for all the news anchors to read.
About Fort Lupton?
No, nothing about Fort Lupton.
Okay.
This is just about in terms of false news. And it was basically a short speech saying, we will not do false news. We're not here to report. But essentially parroting Trump White House talking points on a certain level, even though what they were saying is nothing terribly objectionable. And then somebody put together on the interweb 36 of these newscasters all reading the same thing. Because if you're just watching one station, go. Let me finish this one thing and then, maybe not. Oh, you okay? Yikes. Oh, dear. Well, okay. Give us a moment-by-moment report, babe. I hope there's paper. Anyway, so if you all saw this, it was a great video where all these newscasters were reading the same essential verbatim script handed down to them from management. And it was a really chilling, it's funny, but really chilling in the sense of, oh my gosh, newscasters reading this blanket statement from management that reflects a certain political leaning. Now, of course, I mean, you can go on other stations that are left-wing, and the newscasters or the entertainers or the opinionators there are essentially spouting the same line because they all believe it.
Give one more thing, and I'm going to go get your thing.
Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm not feeling so good.
Oh, gee. All right, let's do one more of.
Give me a good oldie but goodie. Give me a good one.
Well, let me find something really good.
Make it about 8th and 8th, Fort Lupton or a hobo or chicken.
I'm not seeing. Here is a near alert.
Okay.
This is very important. It's not quite an alert, but it's nearly an alert. Police received a call from 18th and 18th. So it's not 8th and 8th. It's 18th and 18th.
It's 18 plus 8 plus 10.
Or as my Passover friend, or my Jewish friends who are not watching because it's Passover, it's a chai alert. Wow, it's a double chai alert. I love it. The caller bought a washing machine off Craigslist, but it didn't work. Instead, it sprayed water all over the floor.
Fountain.
Now, the caller wanted the police to help get the money back.
Yeah.
It's not that great a story, but the fact that it came from 18th and 18th is quite well. Yeah, go. Oh, boy. You've been feeling all sorts of illin things. Yeah, and then just leave the door open so you can get back. Anyway, Greeley Crimes and Old Times. We do this every week on the Dave's Gone By radio program of the stream. Hope you enjoyed. And remember, send your comments to davesgoneby@aol.com or message me right here on Facebook, Radio Dave Lefkowitz. Welcome to John and Beth and Warhol and Tammy. Such great names of people, man. It's great to have you. And my office neighbor, Jeff. Jeff, you've turned in a marvelous time in the show. You missed Greeley Crimes and Old Times, but we've got Iris Rayner Dart coming, the woman who wrote the novel Beaches, and let's see, we also have a Saturday Segue of songs in the news. And since you have a literary bent, Jeff, remember that in a little while we'll be doing Colorado Limericks of the Damned. Oh, yay! Oh, thank you, Jeff. Jeff can't stay, and neither apparently can our signal. Not sure why we just lost our signal. That's so funny. But it does bring us right to the second part of our program. I guess it's time for, we can go inside Broadway. So our video just got paused. I'll be right back. My hearty apologies to folks trying to watch on Facebook. We lost the signal for just about a moment. This has been happening the last couple of weeks. I don't know why, but we seem to be back. Knocking on wood, and it got us through the first hour of the show. It is just about 10 o'clock Mountain Time here in Greeley, Colorado. We're at the University of Northern Colorado for the Dave's Gone By radio program. I'm Dave Lefkowitz. Thanks for joining us. What do we have to do still on the show? Because we'll be here for another 2 hours. We've got Iris Rayner Dart talking to Rabbi Sal Solomon. We've got Storytime, a cow for Hansel. We've got Dave's Big Dick Dictionary and songs in the news, as well as Colorado Limericks of the Damned. So if you're just tuning in now, like Bill and Kelly's returned to us, and hopefully a bunch of other folks have as well, you've got lots of fine quality Dave-tertainment. I'll work on it to go. But for now, let's talk about something that I really, really love to do every week on the program, because I've been a theater critic for many, many years. I'm also an actor and a director and an award-winning playwright, whoop-de-doop-de. So I like to talk about Broadway in a segment that we call Inside Broadway. Inside Broadway, a look at theater on and off Broadway and beyond. Brought to you by Total Theater and Performing Arts Insider. Curtain going up. Up, up, up it goes as we go inside Broadway every week here in the neighborhood. Just to talk about theater, to talk about this spring season, which is now in full bloom on Broadway stages. And also, by the way, if you happen to be here in Greeley, Colorado, near UNC, they're doing a revival of Lanford Wilson's Hot L Baltimore over at the 99-seat Norton Theater. And I think this is the last weekend that you can catch it. So that's local. But, you know, I'm a New York boy. I spent my first 40-something years there. So I talk about Broadway. For example, a couple of shows opening on Broadway this week. They're doing a revival. First, Broadway revival, and as far as I know, maybe the first New York revival of any major note, of the 1980 drama Children of a Lesser God by Mark Madoff, directed by Kenny Leon. It's being done at the Studio 54 Theater, even though it is not a roundabout theater production, and it's opening this Wednesday, April 11th. Now, the show won a Tony Award for Best Play back in 1980. And if you remember, of course, the movie with Bill Hurt and Marlee Matlin, it had to do with a hearing teacher trying to reach out to a deaf woman who's just kind of shutting off and being non-communicative, and they fall in love and stuff. It's Children of a Lesser God, opening on Wednesday on Broadway. And then on Thursday, a brand new musical on Broadway by someone whom you certainly have heard of, Tina Fey. In fact, Tina and, I've never met her, not Tina, Ms. Fey and her husband, Jeff Richmond, are both working on the show along with Nell Benjamin, who's doing the lyrics, and it's based on Tina Fey's movie about Mean Girls. It is opening tomorrow night at the August Wilson Theater. It had its tryout at the National Theater in Washington, D.C. in late fall. The reviews were quite encouraging. Apparently the book is very funny, as one would expect from something written by Tina Fey. So it's Mean Girls opening on Broadway tomorrow night. And, oh, crap, I won't... we're going to be preempted next week because I have to do something in Denver. So I won't come back with the reviews, but I'll let you know how it did and how Children of a Lesser God fared with the critics when I'm back here in 2 weeks. And by the way, speaking of being back here, welcome back to Kelly and to Art Paul, and also welcome again to Bill and Tom. Tom, who may hopefully be getting very involved in this radio station in the weeks ahead. Yay, Tom. And Stephanie, welcome to Stephanie as well to the neighborhood. Well, not only is it spring Broadway opening season, as a matter of fact, there's only three and a half weeks left of the entire Broadway season, and then it's actually over. Everything has to open if it wants to be considered for the Tony Awards. Well, it's already, believe it or not, awards season. The Lucille Lortels have announced their award nominations. Now, the Lortels don't deal with Broadway. They deal only with off-Broadway shows. But on Wednesday, live-streamed, the actors Rachel Bay Jones and Stephen Pasquale announced the nominees for the Lortel Awards that will be presented May 6th at NYU's Skirball Center, my alma mater there, hosted by Jason Jones and everybody's darling Laura Benanti. So that'll be happening. I'll give you just a bit of what the nominees are. For plays, you've got Martina Mayock's Cost of Living, which was at Manhattan Theater Club, Playwrights Horizon's Miles for Mary, Dominique Morisseau's Pipeline, Jocelyn Bio's Schoolgirls, or the African Mean Girls play, which, by the way, is returning for another run in a couple of weeks off Broadway, and then Max Posner's The Treasurer at Playwrights Horizons. In terms of off-Broadway musicals, you have, by Kirsten Childs, Bella, New York Theater's Desperate Measures, which has music by our friend of the neighborhood, David Friedman. 100 Days over at New York Theater Workshop, Jerry Springer, the opera, being done by the New Group, and K-Pop, which was an Ars Nova and My Ye Theater collaboration. And finally, got to give a shout-out to David Cale, our recent friend of the neighborhood, because his play, Harry Clark, is up for Best Solo from the Lortels. It's up against a show called Whose Holiday by Matthew Lombardo. By the way, out of all the nominations, the most went to the show K-Pop, the musical, while Bella and Mary Jane each got 6. The Lortel nominations are out. The awards happening May 6th. And hey, speaking of new, a show that isn't on Broadway yet, but may be coming to Broadway in a year or 2 or 3, they're going to turn Empire Records into a musical. Carol Heikkinen is adapting her 1995 screenplay with a score by Joe Sarnak. Oh my God, I got my shake. Let me get to the middle of Inside Broadway. Yeah, we can go and go back. Oh, this will be exciting. It'll be sort of really juggling the tempo of the show around. But let me tell people about Empire Records. It's all about this small record store that struggles to fend off a takeover from a big chain. It's not going to be a takeover. The guy who's running the record store is just ready to cash in and sell. But the people working at the store don't want him to because they're hip and cool and all that. It was not a hit, the movie, but it found another life on VHS. I mean, the critics hated it. It's really supposed to be not a terrific film, but it's got kind of characters that are interesting. And some of the folks who came out of the movie 20-something years ago included Renee Zellweger, she was in there, Robin Tunney, Tobey Maguire, Debbie Mazar, and this guy Brendan Sexton, who was in Welcome to the Dollhouse. Anyway, they're hoping to premiere Empire Records, whether it's on Broadway or somewhere else, in the year 2020. So, you never know, we might be seeing it on or off Broadway soon. Let me break here and just tell you that Inside Broadway is brought to you by the fine folks at Total Theater, and then we'll get to Grizzly Crimes and Old Times. But the fine folks at Total Theater, which is a marvelous theatrical company, does a couple of things. It has a free website called TotalTheater.com, and there you can read for free thousands of theater reviews, including shows that are recently opened on Broadway or still running on Broadway or closed on Broadway a decade ago, plus off-Broadway, off-Broadway regional theater, international theater, even some festival stuff. So every week we're popping on a review from Los Angeles or Milwaukee or Sarasota, Florida, and certainly Broadway and off-Broadway shows. So you want to check out TotalTheater.com. Now, Total Theater is also the publisher of this hard copy magazine that, amazingly enough, has been around since 1944. It's called Performing Arts Insider. And this is really for the Broadway business person or connoisseur or people in the entertainment industry, because it's very detailed about every single show on, off, and off Broadway. Yes, there are calendar chronological listings of when shows are in previews and opening and closing, but the inside, the meat of the book, is that every single production on, off, or off Broadway has all the people involved listed, their contact information, who are the press agents handling the shows, the managers and agents handling the writers, the directors, the actors, where's it playing, how long is it running. You cannot get this information pretty much anywhere else in this incredibly useful, succinct format as in Performing Arts Insider. How do you get a copy? Well, if you are in New York, you can get a single issue at the Drama Bookshop or Theater Circle stores, or just go online wherever you are to performingartsinsider.com. Performingartsinsider.com. You can buy a single issue. We'll send it to you in the mail, or it comes out 21 times a year. But you can also go just for the monthly issue. It's cheaper, and get your copy just to know, especially this time of year. It's a tremendously useful guide to New York theater. Performing Arts Insider, the Bible of Broadway. So, welcome, by the way, to Stephanie and Paul and Michael and Jordan. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong about this, but I think she was in the original Three Tall Women, which just opened on Broadway in a revival that they're doing. If this is a different Jordan, forgive me.
It's probably Three Tall Women even taller.
Yeah, there you go. Three extremely tall women. three women with gigantism is kind of an acromegalic version of the show. No,
That
but
doesn't seem right.
anyway, if it's not you, Jordan, sorry if you're another Jordan. But if it is you, Jordan, welcome, and all the folks, Kelly and Bill and Tom, etc., and so forth, watching us in the neighborhood. Now, since Joyce is back with my shake and was kind enough to give me a shake, I figure, hey, let's go back to Greeley Crimes and Old Times.
Yeah.
And then I'll flip around and do Inside Broadway again and get to some of the other Broadway stuff I wanted to talk about. But Greeley Crimes and Old Times, yay! Da-da-da-dum. Da-da-da-da. La-da-da-da. Dee-da-da-da. Okay, so well, let's see. Let's get back to some criminality here in Weld County. Are you ready, baby?
Yeah.
Here we go. Police received a call from 9th Avenue. The caller reported a woman, quote, with tattoos all over her face.
Oh, wait, hold on. She had what?
She had tattoos. Wait, I got. Give me that. I want them to make sure they.
See it? Yeah,
Is it the top? Is this
they
one?
Can't hear it.
No, it's
it's
not
this
that.
on the left.
Oh, all the way
on the
left.
right. On the right. I'm sorry.
All the way right.
Got it.
Oh yes, Tatong Tilly-too all over her face. Who keeps rubbing snow in her hair?
Well, of course, because you're hot from getting the tattoos
That too
on
is
your
right.
face,
Yeah.
right?
Maybe she's making reverse snow angels. I don't know.
But wouldn't you be if you got tattoos on your face? Wouldn't your face be hot?
Yeah, probably she's like, I go, I guess it would feel good
Yeah.
to put, but watch out where the tattoos go, and don't you rub that yellow snow.
Yuck.
Anyway, I don't know what that means.
I don't understand that.
Here's an advertisement, babe. We've been thinking about moving. We don't know, you're going to Fort Collins or maybe parts elsewhere. How's this?
What?
Furnished rooms for rent.
Oh, good.
This one is on 1108 7th Street.
It's close to 8th. We know that's a problem.
The cost is $1 and $2, depending on the size of the room, per week.
That's a good deal.
Do you understand that it cost more
Yeah.
to see the inimitable
Yes,
pickaninnies?
Of course it did. And it should.
Which also makes you think about current times. Because do you realize that a hotel that charges in our day $240 a night is actually charging more than $1 for every 6 minutes?
That's crazy.
And back in the day, you could get a hotel room here, or a place to live, for $1 a week.
I think it makes sense in a college town because people don't want to bring all their furniture and stuff. They just want to, have a place to stay and go home.
Yeah, you could lay your head,
Yeah, I would make it nice though.
No, but it's like the Tom Waits song, anywhere I lay my head, I will call my home. So
That's what
why
I
not?
say.
And for $1 a week, heck. Yeah. I would buy two. I would have
you
one
get
in
two?
East Greeley, one in West.
One on 8th and 8th, just in case you're feeling freaky.
Exactly.
know.
Oh.
Yeah.
What's anything important? Anything? What's happening there?
I like to look on my
Tony-
phone.
Is she here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm looking to make sure because I have some texting going on about my later date.
Oh, yikes. Okay.
I'm listening, David. I'm like the students. I can text and listen.
Well, we were talking before about fake news, false news, right?
Yeah.
Fake news bulletin had the state going wild yesterday. Wild, they say. They started in Fort Collins and stated that American troops smashed through the German lines and were capturing Germans. By the way, this was last week. Yeah.
Good.
It was found to be fake news, and now people are threatening the author with dire vengeance when he is found.
God.
Who back 100 years ago, who was shoveling false news about smallpox, diphtheria, and capturing Germans into the Greeley Tribune Republican?
Nobody.
Well, somebody was, unless they were making it up themselves. In national news, 2 farmers in Alma, Oklahoma, made pro-German remarks in public, and they were attacked by a crowd. They were beaten with black snake whips.
Woo! The lesson out.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah, buddy.
They were forced to kiss an American flag, and then they were tarred and feathered and run out of town, told never to come back. That same treatment has been happening to German supporters all over the country. But no, I'll tell you something. It's a good thing that the Germans never got mad and wanted revenge.
No, that's true.
Yeah. They just kept quiet after that. It worked
You're
wonders.
talking to an Austrian, David.
Can we get a black snake whip?
We have one, honey. Wait, we have one. Listen.
Ooh. This is very important. Yeehaw. Siren. Get us, or a very
Wait, hold on,
loud
wait. Okay, wait.
ringing siren noise, maybe a bell. You ready?
Wait.
Oh, no, I'm the... Plus this. I forgot we have music now. Hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a chicken alert!
Hi, this is Peter.
Here's a chicken alert.
Ain't nobody here but us chickens.
Yeah, it's a chicken alert, ladies and gentlemen, on Dave's Gone By.
I was getting into it.
Oh, the Greeley... Why,
I know.
somehow I don't think they would stop me from playing the chicken music.
You never know. That might be highly copyrighted.
12-year-old Truman Craze.
Oh, hold on. You took my thing. Wait, I
Oh,
gotta find...
no, you only need this.
No, I need this one.
Oh. Truman Craze, 12 years old, a supporter of the American Red Cross, was holding his pet chicken. I hope that's not a metaphor. He was holding his pet chicken.
No, with the diaper, hopefully.
Yeah. When the hen pecked at Truman's Red Cross pin, pulled it off his shirt, and swallowed it.
Oh, God.
Truman,
It's like our dog with Hershey Kisses.
Oh, no. Truman said he is now checking all of the chicken's eggs for the pin. Could that? Wouldn't that come out?
No, if they can lay an egg, they could probably pass a pin. If they can put an
Yeah.
egg...
Right. But I'm saying, would it come out
place.
in a egg, or would it come out?
I would think it would come out of their doo-doo, like
Right.
chicken poops.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't know. He's 12. He's,
But wouldn't that be interesting if you could do that?
I don't think that's possible. People would do... That's how they got the Kinder Egg idea,
No,
probably.
but imagine a farmer wants to propose to his girlfriend.
Oh, God, David.
He makes the chicken swallow like a ring, right? And then he's making a nice breakfast for the girl. He lays out the omelet, and maybe it's back in farmhouse. She'd be doing the cooking, so she'd cook. She'd open the egg and say, "Oh, what's this? It's like a diamond. It's dripping with yolk." I think that would be a beautiful, moving
that's
thing.
disgusting.
Really?
That's disgusting. Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't think that thing could send that again.
All right, I think it'd be, or let's say you're if you're trying to impress a girl, and you bring her home for like a late night snack after a concert, and you're gonna whip up a little omelet for her, and she's helping you in the kitchen. You open it up, and out pops a condom. Wouldn't that be amazing?
If you
oh,
cooked a condom, it wouldn't be effective. You'd be pregnant.
why? It's just egg.
No, if you cooked it you were cooking the egg, it wouldn't work.
But your sperm would go into actual egg.
That's disgusting.
I don't know why. Anyway, okay. Shall we go elsewhere, away from Greeley for a moment, for some of our Greeley crimes and old times? Dateline, Concord, Massachusetts, and this is from NBC News. Now, I'll bet you did.
What?
I'll bet you read Henry David Thoreau
Oh, I loved it. Yes.
back in the day and were influenced by it.
Woods, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Wasn't it Walden? What was the
yeah.
word?
Walden Pond,
Yes,
we
I
all
loved
know,
it.
courtesy of Thoreau,
Yeah.
back in 1845. Walden Pond? More like on Golden Pond.
Oh, don't offend me.
That's because the tiny lake made famous by Henry David Thoreau is now being poisoned.
Why?
Not by fracking,
No.
not by pollution, but by swimmers peeing.
Oh, my God.
Despite efforts to clean the water, it's still nowhere near as pristine as when Thoreau swam
Why
there.
do people pee? They
150 years
little
ago.
Bathrooms. Why are they peeing in the water?
Well, that's what you do. You go
That's
and...
disgusting.
Well, it is
Unless
disgusting.
you're Snooki in a hot tub, you shouldn't be urinating.
Oh. High levels of nitrogen and phosphorus are causing algae to overgrow in the pond and block the sun. And that hurts the fish because they need the sunshine as well as the algae to live. So in the interest of helping NBC News with this story, I've come up with a couple of new names for Henry David Thoreau's work.
God.
On Walden's Piddle.
That's cute. I like that one.
If we take from some other authors, I and Thou and We. And finally, Piss Me Deadly.
How about You're in Town?
You're in town. That's right. You're in the money. You're in the money.
I thought you were going to say it was so expensive to live there. It was like golden, you know?
Oh, no. As a matter of fact, that'll probably bring the values down. Yeah. But imagine for 150 years, people going there on this pilgrimage. And what do? You're in this nice pond. It's kind of chilly.
And you go to the
and go to a tree.
Breakfast and you make peepers.
But the time you get to the bed and breakfast, you're come on, you're gonna ping all over the grass.
Yuck.
You know. Anyway.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. On Walden Puggle.
That's the I always felt made me appreciate, like, when we were in Pennsylvania, the forest in winter, like appreciating nature and the beauty of natural settings, you know?
You know what character should have been in Thoreau's work? Uriah Heep.
That's disgusting.
Oh, those are the jokes, folks. By the way,
glad I'm feeling better for that, David.
Welcome to Stephanie and Paul and Michael and Jordan and John and Kevin from the Moist Sheep. Hey, Captain Skag and Frank. Welcome to you all. We're doing some more Greeley crimes and old times here in the neighborhood. Police received a call from 24th Street. The caller said they were moving furniture in their home when they found a creepy note that read, "I was in your home today."
Oh, but who told me that?
What?
Our admin told me a story of somebody who wrote a note and didn't know, and they were actually inhaling some kind of toxic gas. And they were writing notes to themselves, but they were having...
Oh, they were so out of it.
Yeah, they were out of it, and it was them.
Well, I was scribbling some things last night after we ate beans, and that was very bad.
Oh, God, I can imagine.
So this is what the creepy note said.
Yeah.
"I was in your home today.
Oh, God.
P.S.
It's probably UPS.
Well, yeah, right. Well, you know, Amazon is fighting with Trump. They want to deliver now.
Wow.
They don't want to go on the porch.
It's some drone.
Yeah.
It's a drone.
P.S.
Yeah.
I make your house creak at night. I live under your bed.
Ah, it's creepy, creepster.
Love, your boogie monster."
Aww.
I want to be your boogie monster, honey.
That's sweet.
That's boogie. Yeah.
There ain't nobody here but us chickens.
Boogie down.
That's creepy, though.
Isn't that awful? It's like,
yeah, if I lived alone, that'd be creepster.
Yeah, that'd be horrible to do, like an 85-year-old woman living.
No, to anybody, that's creepster.
Yeah. Wow. Anyway, and that's recent, by the way, just so you know. Police also received a call from...
They did say love.
Love the boogeyman.
They didn't do any threats, so maybe that's kind of cutesy.
Well, they're making the house creak.
Yeah, but that's not bad. They're not hurting the person.
Yeah. Yeah. If he jumps on top and starts making the bed creak, then you've got an issue right there.
That's funny.
Police received a call from a bar in Greeley. I'll do the bar noise.
Wait.
I can't hiccup. How can I do?
Where is it?
There we go. That's good. That's good. The caller was concerned because there was an 8-year-old boy at the bar with his parents. Police noted, however, that, quote, the child was not at the bar, his parents were teaching him to play pool, and his mother was not drinking. So
I think they're teaching him to be a pool hustler.
Yeah, which is funny is that if this story were 100 years old, they wouldn't mind him being near the alcohol. But oh no, the kid is playing pool, which rhymes with trouble with a capital T.
Trouble with the capital P. Yeah.
I just think it's funny. It did freak me out a little bit. Like the first year we moved here, and you were going to these monthly social meetings with your cohort of all these people who were new to UNC, and they took us to I don't even know if it's there anymore, but we all went to a local brewery bar place together.
Oh, yeah.
And half the bar was a bar.
Yeah.
And then they had like this game room for kids to be. Remember that? Yeah. So the kids would be running back and forth in a bar. If you're going to get wasted,
you might as well have your kids climbing a climbing wall.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Ooh, look at Johnny going up the wall there.
I thought that was very odd. Anyway, police received a call from the 1800 block of 13th Avenue.
13 and 18th, not a good vortex.
Oh. This is almost an awe alert. Not quite. We had a near 8th and 8th alert before with 18th and 18th. That's the one. This is a nearly awe alert. The caller reported a kitten in their garage.
Oh, no.
Police tried to grab the kitten with a pair of tongs.
Oh, God. We will not touch the cat. Grab the tongs.
Yeah, right. Amazing that the cat evaded them.
Of course, because if you hear someone coming at you with tongs, I mean...
Wouldn't you think the police had gloves or something?
I don't know. Why would you... What kind of tongs? Like she's making a salad? You
I don't know, like steak tongs.
I know. I don't get it.
Yeah. I mean, Chinese restaurants have special cat grabbing tongs so they can go just right into the pot.
Oh, David, don't say that.
I don't know what that
Please
means.
Don't say that.
All right. Hey, I could have gone a whole other way with cat jokes.
Thank
so
you.
that's my clean one.
Thank you.
Warning in the Tribune Republican editorial.
The Republican?
Here we go again. Beware of false rumors.
Whoa.
Like there's this whole thing back
I
then.
think Stevie Nicks must have been alive during this time.
I'm telling you,
She
know.
have her whole album from this paper.
People are starting wild rumors in northern Colorado, and we must all be aware of false news.
Good.
Be sure you have a reliable news source, like the Tribune Republican newspaper.
Wow, vote for us.
I think this is what Sinclair newscasters had to read. Before you start believing all of the stories people are spreading.
That's good. I like it.
Well, here's a true news story about Dave Lofgren.
Not again.
This time he was fined $10.
Whoa!
He could have seen the pickaninnies like 8.5 times for that.
I don't have my... There used to be one that had a money one, but all these things have been like jibber-jabbed, you know? I don't know.
Oh, well, ka-ching. Well, no, actually, you have farm animal noise?
This
Maybe?
is the closest thing I have.
Yeah, let's see. We need a speak and spell with like the cow goes moo sort of a thing. Because here's what happened with Dave Lofgren. He was fined $10 for keeping a piggery at his home on 6th Street. God. It's illegal to have pigs within the Greeley city limit. Oh, it's illegal to have pigs within the Greeley city limits, but only if your neighbors object.
Okay.
So, in other words, you can keep them if nobody says anything.
Yeah, but if anyone complains about your piggery, then you got to get rid of the pig.
So, can I have a prairie doggery?
That's a different thing. A prairie doggery is not a piggery. I don't know.
No, I would love a prairie doggery. I have little marmots
for you.
for
You
you.
got to look up some ordinances. Says.
Now, a Greeley woman, angry. She's angry. Oh, she's angry. With the American Red Cross, threatened to blow up the Red Cross building in Greeley.
That's not the mother of that kid who shot his man.
She has been arrested and is awaiting trial. She also threatened the U.S. government and has been charged with defaming the Red Cross. So it's kind of interesting that instead of charged with trying to bomb, it's like, nah, we'll just get her on defaming.
Yeah, let's pick one charge, you know.
Let's see. We've got a couple more of these. How are we doing on... Check your things so that we're okay. It's nice that we got through a bunch of these today.
Oh, I gotta go, Bobby New.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, hon. That's my wife, Joyce, joining us for Greeley Crimes and Old Times every Saturday here in the neighborhood on Dave's Gone By. What? Nothing. Dave Lefkowitz here. We got so much more show for you. Remember, we got Iris Rayner Dart talking to Rabbi Saul Solomon. We've got more of Inside Broadway that we'll get to in just a moment. We'll have our story time with more of a cow for Hansel. We'll be talking Dave's Big Dictionary.
It's the sixth incarnation
about the definition of down, really more like downs. Oh, hey, a little sex action for Dave.
Love you,
yeah, baby.
Love
you too. Have a good time.
You too, honey. I'll see you later.
And as I said, if the 99-cent store has shmura matzahs, get me like a couple of boxes. Sunglasses, yeah.
I love you, baby.
And the lube I like.
Okay, have a good day.
Thank you, babe. She just tolerates everything. All right, here we go. So, that was Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Now, let's get back to about Broadway. Let's go inside Broadway. Well, again. Inside Broadway, a look at theater on and off Broadway and beyond. brought to you by Total Theater and Performing Arts Insider. Curtain going up. So yeah, we talked about some shows that are opening this coming week on Broadway. Also mentioned a show that's being planned, a musical being planned for the months ahead called Empire Records. Let's talk locally, though. We're here in Colorado, about an hour and 20 minutes drive, depending on traffic, from Denver and the Denver Center. Well, the Denver Center houses two different things. They've got the shows that come in on national tours, and then they've got their own theater company, the DCTC, Denver Center Theater Company, and they've just announced their new season under incoming artistic director Chris Coleman. So these will be the shows right here in Denver, or well, right, 50 miles below me, in Denver coming up. For example, in August, they're doing Viet Gone, which got marvelous reviews off Broadway. It's, unfortunately, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name, but it's Ki Nguyen. It's all about Vietnamese refugees, really the story of Nguyen's parents and how they met in a camp when they first came to America in Arkansas. So that's Viet Gone in August. And then in September, they are reviving Oklahoma, which kind of perfect timing. We mentioned this last week. It is the 75th anniversary of Rodgers and Hammerstein's musical. It's Chris Coleman, the new artistic director. He'll make his debut directing at the Denver Center Theater Company, and he's setting it in an African-American town during that same time period. So it'll be a black cast, kind of interesting. And then October, we'll have The Constant Wife by Somerset Maugham. You don't see that one much around. You do see A Christmas Carol. That's coming back in November. Duh. But then January brings Last Night and the Night Before, which is a comedy drama by Donetta Lavinia Gray. Okay, and it's about Brooklyn, a woman living in Brooklyn in that typical sort of yuppie-buppy Brooklyn community, but then her family's still from the South, and those cultures clash. It was a hit at Denver Center's 2017 New Play Festival, and now they're giving it a full production last night and the night before. And then February brings Anna Karenina, not the forgotten Broadway musical, but a new adaptation of Tolstoy's book done by Kevin McKean, all about a countess falling for an army officer. March will bring Itamar Moses' play The Whistleblower in a world premiere. It's all about a writer with a really great TV gig who is questioning his career choice. And if you know that name, Itamar Moses, it's because she co-wrote with our friend of the neighborhood, David Yazbek, the Broadway musical The Band's Visit. What else? In May, we'll bring the Broadway not quite hit, but got tremendous reviews off Broadway. It was the winner of the 2017 Pulitzer Prize, Sweat, by Lynn Nottage, all about factory workers facing changes in their factory. And finally, there will be an immersive hip-hop show, a revival of the Santaland Diaries with a co-production with Boulder Ensemble Company, and they'll be doing some micro-theater stuff, like little bitty plays in tiny spaces with 20 or 30 audience members. All of that, you can just go to the Denver Center website and check out the season here in Colorado. So, yeah, it's nice sometimes. We mentioned Hot L Baltimore here at UNC and talking about Denver Center. I really should talk more about Colorado theater, considering where I'm doing the show from. But, I'm a New Yorker, so. Anyway, always got to get to the sad news. Bit of sad news in the neighborhood. I don't know if you heard, but on Monday, the actress Susan Ansbach died. Again, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing her name right, but you know her. She's that very pretty blonde woman who was in a lot of movies in the 60s and 70s. I don't know why she passed away, but she did die. Well, she was on Broadway in just a couple of things. She was in Terrence McNally's early play and Things That Go Bump in the Night back in 1965. She was a standby in the Brian Friel one-act companion called Lovers. And then she did some off-Broadway shows too in the 1960s, including an off-Broadway staging of Arthur Miller's A View from the Bridge featuring Jon Voight and Robert Duvall. That would have been something. Anyway, she did shows at the Lortel Theater, St. Clement's. Also, this is the big credit. You don't really see her name anywhere in the lists on IBDB or the Lortel lists. But Ansbach was in the original off-Broadway cast of Hair, but she never ended up moving with that show to Broadway, where it became a mega success. She did get to the movies, and that's why you would recognize her. She has a featured role in 5 Easy Pieces. She's the girl who's engaged to the Jack Nicholson character's brother, I think it is, and she ends up sleeping with Nicholson. She has a role in playing again Sam, the Woody Allen film, Paul Mazursky's Bloom in Love. I remember seeing back in college, they were showing us some Dusan Macabea films, and she was the star of Montenegro, which is this wild, sexy, kind of strange film. And she was on this TV show. I remember the title. I don't remember anything else about it, but it was called Slap Maxwell from 30-something years ago. Anyway, farewell to Susan Ansbach, who passed away on Monday, born in 1942. So, again, I forgot to put down the age, but I guess you can do the math. All right, moving to happier things. Opening on Broadway this Thursday. Yes, we got 3 different shows opening this coming week. Children of a Lesser God, Mean Girls, and a revival of the 1945 classic Carousel. We mentioned Oklahoma by Rodgers and Hammerstein. This was their next step in their progression of genius, I guess you could say. And the revival is opening on Thursday at the Imperial Theater, even though it is a Lincoln Center Theater production. It's, it's directed by Jack O'Brien and features Jesse Mueller, as well as Joshua Henry playing Billy Bigelow, Renee Fleming, the operatic singer, so of course she's playing Nettie, and Alexander Gemignani is playing Mr. Snow. Speaking of which, let's take ourselves out of Inside Broadway for this Saturday, March 7th, with a song from Carousel. And this is interesting. This is from an album called You Ought to Be on Broadway. So it's singers you probably haven't heard of, although they have legit credits, doing songs. The idea of the album is to kind of teach people how to sing Broadway songs. But this is kind of a nice, really good version of Mr. Snow from Carousel, done by Bridget Brady.
His name is Mr. Snow, and an upstanding man is he. He comes home every night in his round-bottom boat with a net full of herring from the sea.
I would love to play more of that, but of course I'm just a little worried about losing YouTube and losing Facebook. So instead, let's get to our very, very special guest, talking to the one, the only, the Jewish Rabbi Saul Solomon, the author, Iris Rayner Dart.
This is Iris Rayner Dart. I'm the author of Beaches, talking today about my musical, The People in the Picture, that's opening in San Jose, California. I'll be talking with Rabbi Saul Solomon on Dave's Gone By on UNC Radio.
Oh, shalom, my friends. This is your old pal, Rabbi Saul Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. And I am so excited to be talking to an author today. Now, if you missed on Broadway back in 2011 a musical called The People in the Picture, about Jewish artists in Warsaw. If you're on the West Coast, you can come see it April and May. They're reviving it. And as a matter of fact, Theater Mania called the original deeply moving. And speaking of tears, who didn't tear up when Barbara Hershey bit the big one in Beaches? Well, guess who wrote the book for The People in the Picture? Guess who wrote Beaches? It's a woman named Iris Rayner Dart. She also wrote for the original Sonny and Cher show. She's got a bunch of best-selling novels, and she's even a member of Pittsburgh's Allardyce High School Hall of Fame. Or I think I pronounced that wrong. It's Allardyce High School Hall of Fame. Well, she'll tell about it anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a hearty shalom to Iris Rayner Dart. Shalom, Iris!
Shalom back at you, Rabbi.
So is it Allardyce? What is it? How do you...
Allardyce. It was named after a man named Taylor Allardyce.
Doesn't sound very Jewish, but you're very Jewish.
I am very Jewish. That's true. In fact, my grandchildren. I'm in New York right now, so I'm calling my grandchildren, who call me Bubby, and they are coming from Israel, where they live. My
yes!
married an Israeli.
Oh, yay! So, where in Israel? Where are they?
They're in Ra'anana.
Ra'anana? I can't say I've
ever... it's a bedroom community for Tel Aviv. It's a beautiful, wonderful neighborhood that they live in. So, and great schools, and they're very happy there.
Oh, Mazel McGlicken, tell us, since The People in the Picture is a rather Jewish musical, tell us how Jewish you were in your upbringing and how Jewish you are currently in your life.
Well, I grew up in a family with immigrant parents. My mother was from Russia, my father was from Lithuania, and my mother was one of 9 children. My grandmother had 11 births and 9 surviving children.
Involved.
And my Bubby never spoke English ever. And my parents spoke Yiddish most of the time, to the point where I didn't know growing up which words were English and which words were Yiddish.
Wow.
I once went to a friend's, the neighbors next door who were not Jewish, invited me for dinner, and Helen Ackland said, which part of the chicken would you like? And I said, the flegel.
Did they at least know to do a kosher chicken, or did they not even...
No.
Wow.
But then she said she didn't know what I was talking about, so I thought, I was 6 years old, I thought, maybe everybody else wants the flegel, and I shouldn't ask for that. So I said, okay, I'll have the pulki. And she finally just said, well, point to it, dear. Because...
At least you didn't ask for the Pope's nose. That would have been a problem.
No, that would have been a problem. But, so I grew up in that household. My mother, it was 2 sets of dishes, completely kosher household. I went to Sunday school. I went to Hebrew school for 5 years. I did not have a bat mitzvah in those days. We couldn't afford anything like that, but I did have a confirmation. I directed the Purim spiel, and so that was my upbringing. Yiddish was a big part of my life because my father was a social worker in a settlement house at the Irene Kaufman Settlement for 40 years. So we had very little money. And I wore hand-me-downs. My cousin's father was a bookie, and they were rich, and we were poor. So, as I always say, I learned very early that life wasn't fair. But I had beautiful hand-me-downs from her. And I never looked back on my childhood as having been deprived, because we had a very happy family. My older brother was extremely funny, and we used to make up musicals all the time. In his hardware store, he was 16 years older, and he had a hardware store, and we would make up musicals about all the customers that came in and make up songs. We always laughed. We had Mickey Cat singing David Crockett on record.
Wait. You on record, or you actually had him?
Oh, on record. So everything was, there wasn't anything that we couldn't laugh about. My father used to calm me down years ago when Selma Diamond was on the Jack Parr show. Do you remember Selma Diamond? She had this kind of catchy voice, and she was a TV comedy writer, and she was the only woman writer on several TV show staffs, and I would look at that and think, why does he want me to be that catchy old woman, which in fact I have become. I said, I wanted to be Sandra Dee, not Selma Diamond. But somewhere along the line, I became Selma. I graduated from Carnegie. I had Carnegie Tech, it was called in those days. And I lived at home the entire time I was in college because I couldn't afford the dorms, and I was on a scholarship the entire time.
Ooh.
Moved out to L.A., thinking I was going to be an actress. I was such a terrible actress. Thank heaven I had an acting teacher who said to me, you should be a writer.
Okay.
As an actress, you're a very good writer, right? So I started writing, and I ended up being in those rooms as the only woman writer.
Now, we're almost rushing through your autobiography here, but I want to stop in certain places and dwell a little bit. For example, do you have any memories of being a child actress? Were you on live Playhouse 90s sort of television or things like that?
No. I was a child actress in Pittsburgh because...
Oh, Pittsburgh, yeah.
So I acted at the Pittsburgh Playhouse, yes, I played Blinkers the Owl when I was 5 on the stage for the Pittsburgh Playhouse. I have an older...
Blinker, who? Yeah, that's an owl joke right there. I'm sorry.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have an older sister, and she was kind of the Mama Rose of my life, and she would take me to auditions, and I would get the job. So I worked in a lot of theater in Pittsburgh, and then I auditioned for the drama department, which is brilliant. It still is, at what was then called Carnegie Tech. And, I mean, some of the alums now have been in Hamilton, and Christian Borle, who was a graduate, has been in a million different shows.
He was in Something Rotten and shows like that, I think.
Exactly, yes.
Falsettos, I think, also, yeah.
And,
but by the way, you mentioned Mama Rose, and I think that show, Gypsy and West Side Story, were watersheds for you in terms of loving the theater as well. Is that true?
Yes. How my father ever did this, I do not know, but when I was 14 years old, we got into his old Plymouth station wagon that was so beat up, it had holes in the floor, you could see the highway going by, and we drove to New York, and we all stayed in one hotel room together, and he somehow managed to get us tickets for Ethel Merman and Gypsy. Was my first Broadway show that I ever saw, and when the overture started playing, and somehow we were in the third row, I guess those last-minute producers' house seats, and I heard the overture play, and I wept, and I just said to myself, this has got to be a part of my life, and I've always been so in love with musical theater. And then the next night, we went to see West Side Story. Can you imagine those being your first 2 Broadway shows? And I was just completely hooked, and that was why I wanted to go into the theater. And while I was at Carnegie, my sophomore year, I went into the varsity show committee, and I pitched an idea for a musical. They were looking for musicals, and I didn't realize people were submitting scripts and tapes, and I just said, hi, this is my idea. It was my first meeting, and they said, we want that. So I went away. I was in summer stock, and I had very small parts, so I had a lot of time. And I wrote my first musical on a steno pad.
Wow!
And when I got back to Carnegie, now I was a big junior, and an incoming freshman boy called me and said, "Hi, I hear you're writing the show. I really would like to write the music." And I thought, oh God, a freshman! You know how you are at that age. A freshman wants to write my music. Who could this be? And I said, fine. I will meet you and audition your music. And he said, great, let's meet at the call board. And I said, how will I know you? And he said, I look like a cross between Ringo Starr and Barbra Streisand. And that boy was Stephen Schwartz.
Now, whatever happened to him? Just kidding.
Yes, I know. Poor kid. He never made it. So...
Well, for those who don't know, he went on to write Wicked.
My Mother's Kitchen Table.
Wow. I'm just letting people know he wrote Wicked and The Magic Show and Pippin. Pippin.
Godspell.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but anyway, and now though you still you didn't want to be an actress anymore. You wanted to write for the musical theater, but then how did you get waylaid into books and movies?
Well, the first thing that happened was I met my first husband about 6 months after I went to L.A. to live with an old friend, a roommate, a young friend of mine from Pittsburgh. She said, oh, come out and stay with me, and it's so nice here. It never rains. I thought, oh, that's good. It never snows. I didn't know the word drought at the time. I said, oh, that's wonderful. It never rains and never snows. That's for me. So I went there, and about 6 months into my trip there, I met Steve Wolf, who was my first husband, and fell in love and just said, he was a rock concert promoter, a young rock concert promoter, and I thought, oh, well, I'm going to stay here. And again, every time I tried to get an acting part, the gods were speaking to me saying, honey, this isn't going to work. My first character that I played was on an episode of The Fugitive, and the name of my character was Another Co-ed. That tells you the size of the part, not to be confused with a co-ed who had a line. Another co-ed just stood there.
Actually, I once played the other co-ed. It was cut from the final draft. But anyway, yes, continue.
So I started. I was in a comedy troupe, and I would write the show. And every time I wrote, something good would happen. And so Steve Wolf introduced me to a woman he knew who wanted to be a writer. Susan Silver was her name. She has a novel out, by the way, called The Writer Wore Hot Pants, and you should look for that. It talks about what it was like to be a woman in those days, trying to break into the business. At any rate, we wrote episodes together, and our manager was Gary Marshall, and Gary Marshall was a mentor of mine for many years, and he kind of taught me how to write a joke and how to write comedy, and then coincidentally or not, he always said that I got him the job, which was certainly not true, but he was the director of Beaches, the movie. So...
Well, let's again, we're going so quickly with this, but...
I know.
When you wrote Beaches, did you, in the middle of writing it, or when you finally put the end on it, did you realize that would kind of be your calling card for the next couple of decades? Like for all the stuff that you've done and written, everybody will be like, oh, she wrote Beaches, and oh, we love Beaches.
On my tombstone.
Yeah.
She wrote Beaches, remember her? I loved Beaches, and I wrote it because I never, maybe other people do, but I sure didn't think of it as anything but, I tried to sell it, and I couldn't. Everyone said, all the various publishers said, it's not commercial. We don't care about two little girls who meet on a beach in Atlantic City, no matter what happens to them. So the lovely agent, Elaine Markson, said to me, they like your writing, but they just don't think the story's commercial. Do you have any ideas that are commercial? Well, Steve Wolf had been in the mailroom at MCA Universal, and all of the guys in his mailroom had become very successful. Mike Medavoy was a studio boss, and John Badham was a famous director, and Mark Norman was a super successful writer, and Steve Wolf was this amazing concert promoter, and I said, well, that's a really commercial story, because I would start by telling how they got to the mailroom and then what happened and follow their careers. And she said, go for it. Just do an outline, and I'll send that out. And as soon as she sent that out, there were offers. And so I wrote that one first. And it was very successful. It was a New York Times bestseller in paperback. It was bought by Aaron Spelling as a mini-series.
Right.
All of a sudden, all the same people who didn't think those two little girls on the beach were commercial loved them. Oh, love those little girls on the beach. So then I was able to sell that book and write that book. And I wrote it because my cousin Sandy, our mothers were sisters, said to me one day, we were so close, and she lived in Florida, I lived in Pittsburgh, and we would meet in various locations and walk on the beach and tell each other everything about ourselves. And she one day said to me, as young adults, when one of us dies, I hope it's me first, because I couldn't live on a planet that didn't have you on it. And I said, ooh, that's a story I want to tell. Thankfully, she is still alive and well.
Oh, wow.
But it's a very powerful emotion. She said to me one day, if you came to my door and said I just killed 20 people, I'd say they probably provoked you. Come on in.
This is what I tell people all the time. But let me ask you, Iris Raynor Dart, so you had the successful book that, of course, turned into a big, successful movie, but in the book, I'm not giving anything away to people who know Beaches, that one of the main characters dies at the end. And yet, years later, you wrote a sequel. Did you feel pressure to do that? Did you have an internal thing that you didn't want to let the characters go?
No, first of all, the character who dies is not in the sequel.
I would hope not. It would be really sick. But...
Well, you know, some TV shows say, come up with those strange ways for people to come back to life. But actually, the real thing that happened was that Disney was going to make, you know, Touchstone was a part of Disney at the time, was going to make the sequel film at some point. And so they asked me to write the novel, and I thought, well, it's an interesting premise, this crazy wacko Cece, the Bette Midler character raising a kid, does have a lot of promise. So, yes, that was what happened, and then they ended up not doing it, which is fine.
And let me ask you, just to stay on Beaches a little bit before we get back to the people in the picture, but
okay.
When the movie of Beaches was written by a screenwriter, Mary Agnes Donahue, and you didn't write the script for the film. Did you have arguments with her? Were there things that she really wanted to change that you had a problem with, or were there things you put your foot down, or was it really smooth sailing all the way?
My husband, I'm married to Steve Dart, my second husband for 37 years. He's extremely wise, and he knows me very well. And when I went into the first meeting with an executive at Disney who said, "So, you'd like to take a shot at this," meaning the screenplay. And I thought, really? I'm going to take a shot at my own material? This doesn't augur well. And I came home, and my husband said, "You know what? I had adapted something of Sidney Sheldon's years ago for TV, and Sidney had said to me, my version of the story is on the shelf in the library. Write your version." And I thought that was so generous. And my husband said, "Remember what Sidney said to you? It's time to say that." He said, "You'll go to opening, the premiere of the film, and you may cry for all the wrong reasons." He said, "But go on and write another novel because you're really loving that. And don't have them tell you arbitrary changes that you have to make and feel lousy about it. Just keep moving." And it was the best advice, because ultimately what happened was they hired Gary. He was my mentor. We were very close. He called me one day and said, "So, I'm back in your life again." Anybody who knows Gary knows that's my classic imitation of him. And we went to lunch, and he said, this is my favorite thing about him, he said, when you got a writer, a director, a producer, a studio, and a star, none of you are making the same picture.
Ooh.
That everybody brings their thing to it, and the writer has very little power, in the movie business.
Right.
And so we talked about, it was during the writer's strike, so Mary Agnes could not do a rewrite. So Gary, who was the director, did the rewrite and put back in a lot of the things that he and I talked about that day at lunch.
Oh, that's not... Because I'm somewhere in an interview, you mentioned that there was a cat fight in the film, and had you been writing it, you'd be like, "What? There's no cat fight between these people. That's just
right."
Hollywood
And I'm
silliness."
an ardent feminist, and I wouldn't write a cat fight. And I was on the set that day, and Beth said to me, "How'd you like it?" And I sort of cringed a little, and she said, "Oh, Iris, do you get upset every time we shoot a scene that isn't in your book?" And I said, "Honey, you're starring in the movie of my book. How bad could it be?" She's still one of my absolute favorites, so how could I not be happy about that?
Now, here's something that did strike me, because you mentioned your second husband, Mr. Dot, there. Is it true you met him at a party at Jerry Lewis's house? And what the hell were you doing at Jerry Lewis's house?
You've been doing your homework.
A little bit, yes.
Yes, it is. It was Oscar night, 1981, and you may remember that President Reagan had just been shot, and they canceled the Oscars, and I had just been in a breakup of a relationship, and I was very sad, and my darling was throwing the party. He was friends with Jerry Lewis's son, Chris, and I didn't want to go to the party, and of course the Oscars were canceled, and then the president was fine, thank heaven. The next day there was the Oscars were reinstated. So I had a friend who was trying to cheer me up, and he said, "You're going to this party. If I have to come over and drag you out of the house," I said, "I'll go if I can take my own car so I can leave shortly." So I went, and there was Steve Dart, and that was 38 years ago, or I guess 37 years ago, yeah. So, yes, it was at Jerry Lewis's house. But Jerry Lewis and Patty at the time were already separated separated, maybe divorced even. So Patty was living in the house, not...
Okay. Now, and speaking of a long time, is it true that your last novel was back in 2003, and you've just been doing theater since then?
Yes, I did write a children's book that I think came out in 2007 with a friend called Larry the King of Rock and Roll, and about a Maltese dog who becomes a rock star. But yes, because I felt as though since I took a wrong turn at Hollywood in the in the 60s, theater has always been my first love, and my daughter is now a director in theater. I used to bring her here every spring break and take her to see a different Broadway show every night, and she got hooked too. So she now lives in New York, which makes it even more fun to come here. And I just, I think of myself as a theater geek, that I'm just completely in love with it. All my years in summer stock when I was in Beach Haven, New Jersey, and we did 12 musicals in 12 weeks, sort of made me an expert on obscure musicals of the world. And
all right, wait, I'm going to call you on that. What is your favorite musical that most people don't know?
Take Me Along.
Oh, wow. Was that Jackie Gleason?
Wow, you are old.
Wow. No, I never saw it, but yeah.
Implied. At any rate,
well, speaking of musicals, let's remind people that they can see the people in the picture, which, by the way, we haven't even mentioned, it has music by Artie Butler and Mike Stoller of Lieber and Stoller, the rock and roll guy, and that is going to be at the 3 Below Theater in San Jose, running from the middle of April to the middle of May. For more information, you can go to 3belowtheater.com, and that's 3 the numeral, 3belowtheater.com. And if I can just have another couple of minutes with you, I know we're kind of pressed for time here, but I want to know, people in the picture playing on Broadway in 2011, now you're doing it elsewhere. Are there any changes? Have you worked the book over any, or is it the same thing, same script, same songs? What?
Donna Murphy was nominated for a Tony for the part. She played a Bubby, and the show was very big. It was at Studio 54. Andy Blankenbuehler, the choreographer of Hamilton, was the choreographer, and he did a gorgeous job. But the second act opened with a ballet, and there was a big, splashy Hollywood number, and I took all of that out, and I reduced it down to 10 people, and the 3 most important characters, the grandmother, the daughter, and the granddaughter. And it still tells the same story of the Yiddish films that were made in Poland between the wars, and this acting troupe, the Warsaw Gang, and their struggles during the war. And it goes back and forth in time between 70s New York, where Donna plays the character of Bubby, who wants to pass the Yiddish culture onto her granddaughter, and tells her the story of when she was a young woman. And brilliantly, Donna goes back and forth as 35-year-old Razel and 80-year-old Bubby, and was.
Well, but you shouldn't be talking about Donna Murphy anymore, because people are going to see it in San Jose now. Who's the actress playing that role?
Oh, you will see such wonderful actors. Before I came to New York, I went to a rehearsal, and their company is amazing. I just saw their production of Sondheim on Sondheim in January, and I was so blown away by the quality of this family, the Guggenheim family. Scott is the director, and Shannon is the choreographer, and the brother Stephen is the music director. They're so talented. I was an arts commissioner for the state of California for 8 years, and I know about small, struggling theaters and the passion it takes to be able to put these shows up. And this family, it has got it in spades. I mean, they just have so much passion and so much talent for this show. It's going to be amazing.
Oh, yay. Oh, yay. Now, I'm sorry, but speaking of music, because I want to get all my questions before we have to let you go. But a couple of quick ones more. And not to get back to Beaches, but for a while you were working on a musical version of Beaches.
That's what I'm doing in New York. I'm working on a musical version of Beaches with a wonderful new director, and we're having a great time, and that's what I've been doing here. In fact, he's on his way over here right now to sit with me over some rewrites.
Oh, mazel. So, who's the, can we ask who the co-writer, the musical person is on the musical Beaches?
He's a young writer named David Austin. You've never heard of him, but boy, is he talented.
Oh, well, mazel. I hope that's going really, really well for you. Two more quick questions for Iris Rainer Dart, the author. One of them I just have to ask, as an Odd Couple fan from years ago. Did you write an Odd Couple episode?
I did.
Which one?
And I don't know that it ever got on. I wrote it with Susan Silver, and I can't even remember what the story was. It's been that long, but I did because Gary was so involved in that, and so he managed to get us an episode of that.
Okay, so we've been talking with the delightful Iris Rainer Dart. Everybody go see The People in the Picture at 3 Below Theater in San Jose, California. For more information, go to 3belowtheater.com. And remember, that's the number 3, belowtheater.com. Last question, because you never got to answer it from our very first question, because you were talking about how Jewish you were as a kid. But now, I mean, it's Passover time. Are you sedering? How Jewish are you now?
Well, I'm married to a goy.
Oh.
But my children live in Israel. My daughter had a bat mitzvah. My daughter is also married to, it's interesting because she came from me, a Jewish mother, and not non-Jewish father, and she married 3 years ago to a young man whose mother is Catholic and whose father is Jewish. So, like us, they celebrate every holiday, her in-laws. So, I'm having Pesach. I have every holiday. I don't light candles every Shabbos, but many. And, because I'm raising grandchildren who are very Jewish, that helps me be more Jewish.
Do you teach them Yiddish? Do you remember Yiddish from when you were a kid, or just phrases like most of us do, like English?
I can, when I first started, part of The People in the Picture is that she makes these Yiddish films, and so I sent away for all of these Yiddish films when I first started writing it, and I was listening, and I was crying because I understood everything. I can listen to a Yiddish conversation and make out most of it. Could I carry on a conversation? No.
Well, I'll tell you what. How about leaving us with, if you remember, your favorite Yiddish aphorism or insult? Either one.
Let's see. I don't know. For me, it's the various words that I love so much, like ungepatchket.
Oh, I love that. Tell everybody.
Ungepatchket means overdone, too much. And it's very funny because, the theater is a very Jewish community, and I've heard, and my director uses the same word. I mean, we're just brand new to each other, but he loves that word, too. We'll listen to a song. If there's too much accompaniment, we both say, it's ungepatchket, it's ungepatchket. So that's one of my faves.
That is a wonderful word. And it has not been ungepatchket at all. It's just been absolutely streamlined and right, talking to Iris Rainer Dart. I want to wish you much, much success with The People in the Picture in San Jose, as well as, of course, your musical project Beaches, which, who knows, we may be seeing in New York and San Jose in the years to come.
I hope so.
Health, success, happiness. Last question. What is your Hebrew name?
Well, that's a good question. Yurit, I think.
Yurit.
Yeah, because my Zaidi that I was named after was Israel, and Srulik was his nickname. So my cousin Sandy is named after him, and I'm named after him.
Well, Yurit Dart. Actually, what was your maiden?
Ratner.
Oh, that's a Jewish. That's a good Jewish name. Yurit Ratner Dart. thank you so much for being in the neighborhood with us, and shalom to you.
Shalom to you. Thank you.
Bye-bye now. Or as Rabbi Saul would say, I'm sort of the broken wind beneath everybody's wings here in the neighborhood on Dave's Gone By, where it's 12 minutes after the hour Mountain Time on this Saturday, April 7th, 2018. Last day of Passover, but first day of the rest of our lives in the neighborhood. I'm Dave Lefkowitz. Remember, you can find out more about this program by going to my website, davesgoneby.com, or telling your friends and family and neighbors. Check out the Facebook page, Radio Dave Lefkowitz. Like us and follow us, please, on Facebook so that you know every Saturday from 9 until noon. Even if you forget, Facebook will tell you if you've got Facebook on. It'll say, hey, your Facebook friend, Dave Lefkowitz, is doing his show Saturdays here at UNC Radio and on Dave's Gone By. Well, we got more show for you, but before I tell you about that, I want to thank and welcome Lawrence and Gregory and Glynis and Julia and my cousin Marnie. Hey, Marnie. Love to Adam and the kids, Jose and Michael and David and all the other folks who've been listening since the beginning of the show. We've got an hour or so left of the program because we still have more to do. We've got our Saturday segue of songs in the news. We've got Dave's Big Dictionary coming up in just a little while, where somehow I'm going to be talking about the word down, but only in terms of, like, downs, rolling treeless land with sparse soil thing. Yeah, that's going to be fun. What else? Oh, of course, coming very, very shortly, a cow for Hansel. Big one. But before all that, we are going to institute a brand new segment here in the neighborhood. This is terribly exciting, and it has to do with an idea that just came into my head about a week ago. I don't know how. I think I just felt like writing one little poem about a place in Colorado and seeing if I could write a funny or mildly amusing limerick about a particular city or town, and I did. And then I came up with another one, and then it became this project, this thing that almost overwhelmed my week of how many towns in this state, in Colorado, could I write absolutely vile, disgusting, horrible limericks about. And so far, I've gone past 25. I think I'm pushing towards the 30 number. Did not intend to do this. Did not intend to remotely go there. I was just going to do like this one segment of maybe doing 5 or 6 or 7 and then calling it a day. But instead, this being radio that I've been doing for 15 and a half years and have no particular desire to stop anytime soon, I'm going to tease this out. And what we're going to do is once a week, we're going to pick another place in Colorado and do a limerick about it. So it's going to be literally like 5 minutes of build-up for 10 seconds of poem, but worth every second, I'm telling you. So we're going to call this the Colorado Limericks of the Damned, just because, me being me, this is not Edward Lear territory. This is not Ogden Nash stuff. This is, I don't even want to, Hustler magazine meets Louis C.K. meets the guy who used to put on the clown makeup and kill children kind of territory. That's just where my brain goes way, way too often. But anyway, the city of the day for Colorado Limericks of the Damned is Arvada, or you might want to pronounce it Arvada, A-R-V-A-D-A. Arvada has a population of about 100,000 people, kind of a cool place to be, fairly well-known Colorado town. I looked up some other information about it yesterday, but forgot to write it down and therefore have forgotten it completely. But I do have a limerick about it. So let's begin this brand new segment of Colorado Limericks of the Damned.
You're the poetry man.
A limerick is a comic verse of 5 lines, in which lines 1, 2, and 5 will end with words that rhyme, and likewise verses 3 and 4 also end with words that rhyme. So this is a limerick.
Rocky Mountain High. Colorado, 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 Colorado. Dirty, 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 dirty,
Told you that the lead-up would be longer than the actual poem, because, as the fella said, Limerick is 5 lines long. First 2 lines rhyme with the final line, and then the 2 lines in between rhyme with each other. Our premiere, our debut, are you ready, Potato? Of Colorado Limericks of the Damned. A virginal child in Arvada woke up one fine day with stigmata. She bled from her fists, her tits, and her wrists, till she looked like a squashed enchilada. That's it. That's the whole poem. There it is right there. Thank you for... See, there's going to be a concatenation of these. One horrible, horrible poem every single week, all about Colorado. Wasn't that worth waiting for? Probably should do 2 a week. It's a little... maybe a little too much expectation for a single limerick a week. But we'll see. We'll see how this goes. It's certainly a nice change from the bad pun of the week that we used to do years ago on the program. Well, speaking of puns and humor and things, we're getting far away from that right now for the moment, because it's time for another segment of the show that we've been doing for the past month or two. It's Bring the Kitties. You can bring the kitties back in the room now, so I'm not going to be saying anything terribly horrible, probably, since I'll be reading someone else's work during Storytime.
Tell me a story, tell me a story, tell me a story. Remember what you said. You promised me, you said you would. You gotta give in, so I'll be good. Tell me a story, then I'll go to bed.
Lumdy-dooty, lumdy-dooty, lumdy. Yes, tell you a story that was written back in 1967, and as I've said, I had no idea this book existed until I found it in the service station where they put new brake pads on our Subaru, and among the stories and the books that were there, and the newspapers and the magazines, auto magazines and the Greeley Trib and Dr. Seuss kind of things, was this book called A Cow for Hansel. I'm going to hold it up closer for our Facebook folks. A Cow for Hansel by Ernie Hollier, except her name was actually Erna, but they called her Ernie, I guess, to sell more books, because it seems like a guy kind of a book. You got Hansel right here, who is this Hitler-esque youth, blonde, kind of well-physiqued young man in what I assume is even pre-World War I Germany, quite honestly, or at least it's really rural Germany. Say that 3 times fast. And, his family, which needs to buy or wants to buy a cow, because a horrible plague has killed all the cows, pretty much, and not all of them, but it's knocked out the vast majority of the cow population in Oberhausen, Germany. The cows that are left aren't well enough to give good milk, so the dad is trying to get money to get a new cow, but it's really expensive, and he's a poor farmer. They wind up with a nasty-ass goat that butts Hansel in the butt and also eats most of his mother's kerchief, because they go to the city, and Hans buys a kerchief for his mom, and he's excited. He spends like his last farthing or whatever Germans spent back then, and realizes that the goat has eaten most of the hanky out of his pocket. Anyway, they come out of the city. Father doesn't have enough money to buy a cow, but he makes a deal to get this goat that can graze on this other guy's land. Now, the other thing that they want to do is this family needs some dough, and Hans is old enough to do field work and other chores. So they send him off. They send him about 5 houses away, which is probably a few hectares of yardage, away from the family to neighbors who could really use him because they're getting older. So this is what Hans is going to do. He's going to go live during the week and work at this other family's farm. And that's where we left Hansel in A Cow for Hansel last time. Are you ready for the next exciting half chapter in this story? I know you are. Okay, here we go. Hans's new family. Okay. Maybe he'll have 2 daddies. Hans liked the colorful flowers painted on the shutters of the Kaiser house and the pictures of Bible scenes hanging on the walls. Oh, so this is going to be a palace of fun, I can tell you right now. The garden was nice, too, with its promised good things to come. Half-grown heads of winter lettuce poked up through the melting snow. The gooseberry bushes, as opposed to the dingleberry shrubs that the family was kind of leaving near the gooseberry bushes. These are the gooseberry bushes against the fence would yield a delicious crop. Life on the Kaiser farm was not going to be at all bad, Hans told himself. We'll find out. And then on the bench out front gleamed milk cans and milking buckets. Hans knocked on the front door. While waiting for someone to let him in, he read the weather-beaten sign over the door. The carved inscription said, "Whose house is this?" This is in quotes. "My father had it before me, his ancestors prior to that. My son will live in it after me, his descendants after he's gone. So tell me, whose house is this?" It's a very Jewish question, kind of thing, because he answers a question with a question, except it's obviously not a Jewish house. But strange, Hans had always thought that the house belonged to Mr. Kaiser. As he waited, see, that's the kind of a thing, how ignorant Hans, and as he waited for someone to come, he wondered why Mr. Kaiser laughed so seldom. For the first time in his young life, Hans realized that a person is only a link in a long chain of generations, unless, of course, you're German and you destroy several generations of another race. Anyway, Hans heard noises in the house, but nobody answered the door. Pushing the door open cautiously, he squinted into the dim hall. A shaft of light fell through a window in the second door to his right. Hans passed the front room, then knocked on the kitchen door. All right, just get him in the friggin' house already. Old Mother Kaiser was standing by the sink, wiping a cup with the greatest of care. Her old-fashioned dress swept the white plank floor, and her work-worn hands were like her face, strong, bony, and wrinkled. So not quite a gilf. A faded kerchief hugged her forehead. It was tied in a knot high at the back of her head, leaving uncovered large ears over which trickled strands of gray hair. So essentially, back then, a babe. "Mother Kaiser," said Hans, knocking a second time. The old woman's head turned. Had she heard him? "It's me, Mother Kaiser," said Hans, pounding the door. Mother Kaiser raised her head. Hans waved at her. She saw him at last. A shriveled smile blossomed on the old woman's face. A little bit of a mixed adjective there. Well, anyway. "I'm hard of hearing of late, Hansel. Glad you're here." Well, that's the international symbol for being hard of hearing, by the way. Just put your hand like this. "Where can I put my things?" inquired Hans, holding up his bundle. I hope that's not metaphorical. "In Sepp's room." Mother Kaiser showed him to the room over the kitchen. In the room were a wardrobe, a dresser with washbowl and pitcher, and 2 beds against opposite walls. Hans liked the idea of sharing the room with Sepp, Mr. Kaiser's 15-year-old son. Hans put his belongings into an empty dresser drawer and ran down to the kitchen. "Where is everybody?" he asked. "Everybody is in the field but me," Mother Kaiser explained. "Since I turned 70 a few years ago, they've made me stay at home. It isn't fair because it's the work outside that has kept me healthy all my life." She poured a glass of milk for Hans and set a plate of crisp brown pastries in front of him. "I knew you were coming and saved these for you." She blinked knowingly at Hans. How do you blink knowingly? I mean, wink, okay, but you blink knowingly. That's just, I don't know, Parkinson's or something. "Thank you, Mother Kaiser." Hans knew the old woman was a good and kind person. She went to church regularly and had the reputation of never turning away a beggar. "Did the farmer leave any orders for me?" asked Hans as he finished his dessert. "No, you can take it easy until Sepp comes home." Where do you keep the dry wood, Mother Kaiser? I hope that's not a metaphor. Hans had noticed the nearly empty wood box by the stove. Out in the yard! She seemed pleased. Hans fetched the round wicker basket from the wood box. He made 4 trips in order to fill the greedy box. This should last you for today. May God bless you, child! The old woman patted Hans's hand. Steps resounded at the back door. Hinges creaked, and the door slammed shut. Somebody turned on the hall faucet and made a noisy job of washing himself. In a short while, Sepp entered the kitchen. He was still buttoning his checkered work shirt. A pleased smile lighted his ruddy face. I'm glad you're here, Hansel. Sepp was stocky and strong for his age. The year before, when a bull had broken loose, something about animals go crazy in this book. You got a goat running free. There was a point when bears almost attacked poor Hans because there were dancing bears in the middle of the square. And now this. These are people who really should probably move to the city. When a bull had broken loose in the village, Sepp had captured the animal single-handedly. When many a grown man had backed away, Hans admired Sepp's strength and courage. I'm thinking, Brokeback Mountain scenario. Do you have some work for me, Sepp? Hans hated to sit around. Sure have, Hansel. It's time to prepare the feed. Sepp walked to the barn and climbed up to the haymow. Hans followed him, bumping against wagons and machinery in the semi-darkness. Would you like me to push back the big gate so you can see better? Sepp asked. No, don't bother. I'm getting used to the darkness. A few rays of sunlight filtered through the west wall's small, louvered windows, and thin shafts of light pierced the gaps between the roof tiles. Take this! Sepp pushed a pitchfork into Hans's hand, then climbed the ladder onto a huge haystack. Get the bedding straw from across the aisle, Hansel. Sepp called from his lofty height while he tossed down big forkloads of hay. Hans forked out straw until Sepp called down again. That's enough straw, Hansel. Get some of the second cut beside me, will you? The second hay cut was short. It kept slipping off Hans's fork. He noticed that it was rich with clover. No wonder the Kaiser farm produced good milk. Watch out! Sepp leaped down into Hans's section. This is more fun than using the ladder, he grinned. He inspected Hans's 2 piles in the aisle. You're not a bad worker, Hans. You will do fine on the Kaiser farm. Hans hoped Sepp's father also would like his work. Mr. Kaiser was reputed to be a hard man who demanded much from his help, but it was evident that Hans intended to live up to the Kaiser farm standards. So while Sepp lifted the lid from the hay chute, Hans memorized the location of the wagons and the machinery. Next time, he would not stumble or bump into anything. Sepp went into the barn under the haymow. Are you ready, Hansel? He called up through the open chute. I'm not making any jokes here. I apologize. We need funny stuff. But he called up through the open chute. Ready! Hans pitched the hay into the chute, and Sepp forked it away in the barn below. So that's some good forking on Sepp's part. When the aisle was empty, Hans closed the chute's heavy lid and climbed down. Sepp's father had not returned home yet. The cows shuffled and coughed as they ate. Going into the milking stalls, Hans heard jets of milk squirted into the milking buckets with a loud hissing sound. What a big barn you have, gasped Hans as he opened the door. Yeah, okay. I can't quit you. There we go. You'll get used to it, Sepp laughed good-naturedly. We haven't been using the whole barn since the cattle plague. My father moved the 6 surviving cows in beside the horse stalls, so now we need to fill only 1 trough. Welcome to the farm, Hansel. We hope you'll like it here. The girls' voices called out from between the cows. Oh, hey, this book may get good after all. Okay, I like it fine already, Hans called back to Lisbeth and Stacy, Sepp's sisters. I'm going to leave it right there. Okay. This was part 6 of A Cow for Hansel by Erna Holyer. We've been reading, I don't know if we're going to get through the whole book here, because it gets less and less amusing as we go on, but I'm trying. I'm trying for anything new to replace music with talk here in the neighborhood, where it is. What time is it? It's about 11:30. Oh, we're making some pretty decent time for once. On Dave's Gone By on this Saturday, April 7th, 2018. We're calling this episode Dartboard in honor of our guest, Iris Rayner Dart, who was talking to Rabbi Sol Solomon just a little while ago. So we call her now a friend of the neighborhood because she's been on the program, and we want to let you know, hey, she wrote Beaches. She's working on the Beaches musical that's going to debut in London and then maybe reach New York months or a year or two later. Plus, if you're in San Jose, California, as we speak, they're going to be doing a revival of The People in the Picture, her musical about Jews during sort of World War II era time. So, Iris Rayner Dart, new friend of the neighborhood. But here's the deal. We also have a lot of folks over the past 15 and a half years that we have been on the air who are friends of the neighborhood as well. You know, guests going back to people like Christine Lavin and Judy Collins and the late Julie Wilson and Bonnie Franklin and Dick Cavett and Carl Reiner. It's had a pretty amazing roster. A lot of people, some more famous than others, but they're all friends, and we like to keep tabs. We like to let you know what they're up to, because it'll be months or years after they've appeared here, and they're doing different things. So we call it the Friends of the Neighborhood. My morning bowl of Berlioz, ladies and gentlemen, for the Friends of the Neighborhood for this week. For example, gotta give congratulations. You know, we were talking about this being the beginning of awards season for the New York Theater because they announced the Lortel nominations, but in terms of cabaret, hell, we've already had the Bistro Awards and the Manhattan Association of Cabarets and Clubs Awards, and we had a couple of nominees who are friends of the neighborhood, so congratulations to Karen Mason, winner of Celebrity Artist and Major Recording for her album It's About Time at the MAC Awards, which were held this past Tuesday. And also, congratulations to our friend Jeff Harner, who won for Best Director. Want to let you know that tonight, Frank Ferrante is doing an evening with Groucho at the Three Below Theater. Why do I... Oh, my God, that's the same place. So, Iris Rayner Dart's musical is coming next week to Three Below. But if you're there tonight, you can see Frank Ferrante. He's been doing his Groucho show, my God, for 2 or 3 decades by now. He's done it in Greeley. He's obviously done it in New York. We've had him on the show. So, hey, Frank Ferrante, if you're on the West Coast, go see him do Groucho. Let's see, also want to let you know that if you haven't seen the very fun musical Aladdin on Broadway in New York, well, I mean, you can still see it. It's still playing there for, hey, probably years. But if you're out here where we are, you can catch Aladdin at the Denver Center in the Buell Theater, where it is running through the end of the month, and that has music by our friend Alan Menken. Want to let you know, hey, we were talking about Jackie Martling before, because Art Paul, our friend, won a copy of his book, and Jackie was on 2 or 3 weeks ago. Well, Jackie is going to be signing copies of his book, including a Q&A session, and that's going to be at Long Island Picture Frame in Oyster Bay. That is happening today. I don't know what time, but if you're a Jackie the Joke Man Martling fan, you're going to want to check that out in Oyster Bay today. Tomorrow, April 8th, Richard Skipper is appearing at the Laurie Beachman Theater. And then on Monday, April 9th, the Chairman's Gala for Theater Forward is happening at the Pierre Hotel, woohoo, on East 61st Street in Manhattan. They're honoring August Wilson, who I spoke to. He's not a friend of the neighborhood, though. But I'll tell you who is. Chaz Palminteri, David Yazbek, and Danny Burston. They're all going to be among the presenters at that Theater Forward Gala on Monday night. Also on Monday night, the 24-hour plays off-Broadway, which are a bunch of one-act plays that are literally written, rehearsed, and performed all within one 24-hour period. It's a very cool idea, kind of an exciting theatrical thing, happening at the Laura Pels Theater on West 46th Street among the actors taking part. So the actors literally, they get the script in the middle of the day, they have a while to rehearse it and maybe memorize it. I imagine they do it book in hand. The plays are short. Among those actors are Andre DeShields, our recent friend of the neighborhood. And also, again, on Monday, a lot of things happening. The Point Foundation Gala for LGBT student scholarships. The guests for that event will include Valerie Smaldone. That happening in New York as well. Now, on Tuesday, and running for 2 weeks, Marilyn May, our singer friend, a woman who was on Johnny Carson, I think more times than any other female singer or something like that. Anyway, the amazing Marilyn May, her latest cabaret show is called 90 at Last. And it's because she is 90 years old. So, mit mazel, go. So if you haven't seen Marilyn May, go friggin' see her. She's at Feinstein's at 54 Below, and that is happening April 10th through April 21st. On April 11th, the Friars Club is going to celebrate our friend Jamie DeRoy being a producer and also an MC, a hostess for the past 30 years. And she was actually one of the first 8 female members of the Friars Club. And not only that, not only is Jamie DeRoy going to be there, but as part of the entertainment and the presenters, Penny Fuller and Anita Gillette will both perform, and they are both, of course, friends of the neighborhood as well. That same night, Brooke Morriber, our younger, she's one of the youngest people we've ever had on the show, Brooke Sunny Morriber, is at the Mercury Lounge in a benefit for epidermolysis bullosa, which I had, by the way, last night at a Mexican restaurant. It was really good. But if you want to cure this thing, EB it's called, or if you want to see Brooke Morriber or find out more about her, go to brookemorriber.com. And hey, a very cool guy, a guy who was on my show many years ago, came to see me do The Miracle of Long John's off-Broadway. His name is the amazing Kreskin, a mentalist entertainer. I hesitate to use words like psychic, and I don't believe in any of that. But hey, I consider it a certain kind of magic. Even if there is trickery involved, it's entertainment. Fine. And Kreskin is doing it. He will be live off-Broadway at Theatre Row's Lion Theatre from April 12th through April 28th. I want to let you know that from the 13th through the 29th, there's a play at the 13th Street Repertory Theatre called Dress of Fire, and it co-stars the word ubiquitous was coined for this guy, Austin Pendleton. He's either acting in something or directing something, but he's back. He does like 50 plays a year, and the latest one is Dress of Fire. He's co-starring, by the way, with Angelica Page at the 13th Street Repertory. Speaking of off-Broadway things, remember you can go to the East Village Playhouse to see Galinsky in The Bench, which is directed by another friend, J.O. Sanders. Now, I have that playing just through the 13th, just through one more week. They extended it once. I don't know if they'll do it again, but it sounds pretty good. It's all about, he plays a number of homeless people. It's a solo show with Galinsky, The Bench, at the East Village Playhouse. Running just a couple of days later than that, you can see the revival by the Barrow Group of A Walk in the Woods, Lee Blessing's comedy drama. It's directed by Donna Jean Fogel, but our friend of the neighborhood, Lee Blessing, one of his best-known plays, A Walk in the Woods. David Herskovitz, who is the artistic director of Target Margin Theater. They are doing a show, and he's directing it, of course. It's called Pay No Attention to the Girl, and that is being done in Brooklyn. And I love the name of this theater, the Doxy, as someone who has owned dachshunds, paying no attention to the girl that is happening now through mid-April. Also, now through early May, Daphne Rubin Vega is in the musical Miss You Like Hell at the Public Theater off Broadway. Now through June on Broadway in The Iceman Cometh, the one that stars Denzel Washington, our friend Dakin Matthews playing the character of Pete. Megan McGinnis, she is at the Actors Temple in a new musical called Goldstein. Rabbi Saul would love this. Megan McGinnis and Goldstein, that's running through the end of July. And what else? A couple more. Reminding you that Daniel Breaker is playing Aaron Burr in Hamilton on Broadway. Babette's Feast off Broadway, directed by our friend Karen Coonrod. Jim Caruso's Cast Party every Monday night at Birdland. Evan Seplow, founder of StageBuddy.com, which is a great website to check out. And finally, Dr. Demento doing new Dr. Demento shows and archiving the old ones at drdemento.com. Eva Heineman hosting High Drama on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. Charlie Gross and Leslie Hoban Blake on Manhattan Cable TV doing Two on the Aisle on alternating Thursdays. And those, my friends, are the friends of the Neighborhood. 11:45 here in the actual Neighborhood with me, Dave Lefkowitz, doing the Dave's Gone By radio program, our 647th episode of the show. And by the way, welcome again to Gregory and Glennis and Julia and Marnie and Jose and Michael and David and Bruce. Bruce, who finally tuned in because he keeps those late Saturday mornings. Sorry that you missed Greeley Crimes and Old Times and, some of the other fun that I had with Joyce early in the show. Remember, of course, Bruce, that you can hear the whole program, assuming our tape recording comes out and all that, tomorrow, and then in perpetuity at davesgoneby.com when we archive it. And it's both a stream and an MP3. You can download it or just listen to it right on your computer. The whole entire, shall we say, squashed enchilada in reference to the limerick that you may or may not have missed. Anyway, we got one more item for this episode of the program. It's called our Saturday Segue of Songs in the News. And this is where we play a few songs, and there's a reason for playing each one of them. It is tied to something that's going on in the news or current events and the world at large. Something fairly big or notable that happened in the past week or maybe expected for the week ahead. And so got to put on your thinking caps as well as your listening ears as we play all or, well, part of some songs and items. Well, anyway, here's an example. We're going to play this instrumental piece, and you have to figure, why is Dave playing this? Does that bring back memories? I guess, was it Tuesday nights or Thursday nights watching that show? Of course, that is the theme from Hill Street Blues, from Mike Post is the guy who wrote that. I think he passed away a while back. But think of Hill Street Blues. Think of NYPD Blue. Think of LA Law. Doogie Howser, MD. All of those shows were created by and brought on the air by one man, Stephen Bochco, who had been fighting leukemia since 2014 and lost the battle last Sunday, on April Fool's Day, at the age of 74. Born in 1943, he was the son of creative people. He had a mom who was a painter and a dad who was a violinist, and guess what? Of course, they were Jewish. So he wrote episodes for Columbo and Macmillan and Wife and more, and then decided to move to NBC, and that's where he really, had his salad days, all those years of coming up with the dramedy form. Now, they weren't completely dark melodramas or soap operas, although they had those elements, and this idea of stories that carried on for entire arcs of several episodes or a whole season. But meanwhile, there were other parts of each episode that would be resolved. And there were funny parts and serious parts. Now, Bochco fared less well with some other shows. If you remember the the show Hooper Man. That tried to also be a dramedy with John Ritter. And he was the guy behind Cop Rock, which I would give that another shot if they have those episodes somewhere on like DVD. I'll bet it really doesn't quite work. And yet, I'll bet there are parts of it that are sensational. Because they have people like Randy Newman writing songs for Cop Rock. And one of the most touching song on Randy Newman's new album from a couple of months ago was a song that he actually wrote for Cop Rock 20 years ago. But anyway, gotta say a big farewell to Stephen Bochco, who was part of our, or at least my, TV watching diet for many years back in especially in the 1980s. Farewell to him. So now you get the idea, if you have never heard this show, if you haven't already, of, aha, Dave's going to play something. There's a reason for him playing it. This is why. So, our next order of business, I will again say, as I should have warned before I did the limerick, that this is the time to get the kiddies out of the room. If you've got 4-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 26-year-olds, they may want to leave because of some of the language you're about to hear. But, again, pay attention. Why will I be playing Artie Lang doing this bit?
I fucking hate YouTube, man.
Just a bit there of Artie Lang. I forget just how funny because we think of him as ruining his life with drugs and alcohol and everything, but when he gets up there and he's on top of his game, he's a very funny comedian. Artie Lang, and very vulgar and vile comedian, which I appreciate. His piece called YouTube, from his album Jack and Coke. Why do we play that? And not only that, he's not only talking about a video of him on YouTube, but he's talking about killing all these people on the hills and the Kardashian type of folks and shooting. Well, reason I played that, folks, is if you remember early in the week, 39-year-old Nassim Agdam shot 3 people at YouTube's headquarters in San Bruno, California. That was on Tuesday. She then shot herself. Employees first thought they were hearing an earthquake. They're in California, and they're so used to that. They thought, oh, something's popping. Must be a building falling down. But no, it was just this crazy woman. She apparently was pissed off about YouTube filtering her content. Hey, welcome to the club, Nassim. Can I have your gun? But anyway, and people who were responding to her videos, because she was doing like these weird semi-sexy exercise videos that people were responding to by attacking her for being a vegan. Then what else happened? CNN took the heat. This is kind of a meta story about the whole thing. CNN started reporting on the shooting live while it was happening, and as soon as the anchors realized or learned that the shooter was a woman, which is a huge shock in these kinds of things, because 1 out of every 50 of these mass shooting or these crazy killings is female. Soon as the CNN anchors learned that she was a woman, they immediately started to think it was some kind of love triangle. And CNN completely failed the Bechdel test in terms of serial killings. And like, no, it wasn't as torrid and as Hallmark movie as, oh, he was sleeping with my husband. I love him. I wore underpants all day so I could go in the spaceship and get... No, it had to do with much more serious things. People making fun of her online for being a vegetarian and posting videos about diet and exercise. Anyway, that was the story of the week involving YouTube. And what's really funny, it was still a better week for YouTube than it was for Facebook. What an interesting time we live in. But also kind of a sad time for jazz fans. You know, I'll tell you something about free jazz. I hate it, but I do respect it. I respect the art and the creativity and the boundary pushing involved. And that's early sort of free jazz, going all the way back to 1959 for that piece. Yeah, and the whole thing is about 6 minutes long. That's just the first minute or so of a piece called Luya, the Glorious Step, which is from either the first or second album by Cecil Taylor called Looking Ahead. Dennis Charles there on drums, Earl Griffith on the vibraphone. Cecil Taylor, jazz legend, born in 1929, passed away this past Thursday at the age of 89. Born in Queens, died in Brooklyn. Cecil Taylor, absolute pioneer of free jazz. And you can even hear from that little snippet before he really went way out in the middle 1960s. Here he's still kind of maintaining the form, as it were. But, he takes a very percussive attack to the piano, but it's also very grounded in classic piano theory and stuff. Lots of technique, but as he moved on, less and less structure to what he was doing. He ended up working a lot with saxophonist Jimmy Lyons, and then he did solo work and put together other bands and trios and ensembles. In just a year and a half ago, in 2016, the Whitney Museum honored Cecil Taylor with a retrospective. Wikipedia quotes Taylor as once saying, quote, "I try to imitate on the piano the leaps in space that a dancer makes." That's kind of cool. And I have to say, he made the kind of music that I never want to listen to, but I'm glad somebody did Cecil Taylor. And then this is kind of interesting, a music critic outed him in 1982. I assume accidentally, said that Taylor was gay, but Taylor never wanted to talk about it, never dealt with his private life one way or the other, said that basically sexuality and things like that are just too complicated and personal to make any definitive blanket statement about. So that's all that really he wanted to say about it. What can be said is that he left behind a legacy of music that is very important to jazz and very freeing to jazz. So farewell to Cecil Taylor. Well, we got one more song in our Saturday segue of songs in the news here on Dave's Gone By. We're not going back quite as far as 1959. Let's hear an award winner from 1971.
I was born and raised down in Alabama on a farm way back up in the woods. I was so ragged that folks used to call me Patches. Papa used to tease me about it, of course, deep down inside.
Okay, a number there from 1971 called Patches, or some people refer to it as Patches, I'm Dependent on You, Son. A song that won the 1971 Grammy Award for in the R&B catalog. A song by the great Motown or urban pop R&B people Holland, Dozier Holland, and Ronald Dunbar. Well, Ronald Dunbar passed away this past week. He died on Wednesday at the age of 77. Songwriter, also a record producer. He worked with Holland Dozier Holland on that song. Also a song that friends of the neighborhood should know pretty well, called Band of Gold, that was made famous by Frida Payne. She was a friend of the neighborhood a few years back. And also he did... he co-wrote Chairman of the Board's song, Give Me Just a Little More Time. You know that one, you hear it on the radio and it's got that adenoidal high-pitched singer guy, Give me just a little more time. Never really liked that one, but it stays in your head. So he wrote that. He wrote Band of Gold. He wrote Patches, which we just heard, which was a hit for Clarence Carter back in 1971. That's what we were playing before. He worked on the late Ronald Dunbar, worked on a couple of record labels that ended up going under, so then he moved on and did other things. As a matter of fact, he co-wrote and helped George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic for a while, including their song Agony of Defeat. So again, gotta say a farewell to Clarence Carter in the neighborhood, and from this segment, Saturday Segue of Songs in the News. Well, it is 12:02 in the afternoon, Mountain Time, here in the neighborhood in Greeley, Colorado. I'm Dave Lefkowitz. The program our 647th episode of the show. We called it Dart Board, and we're almost done, but not quite. I almost wish we were, because past couple of weeks we've had a dry spell when we had such good words for a while of Dave's Big Dictionary. I gotta get used to this mirror image Facebook thing, but early in the show, my wife or I will thumb through this 75,000 definition Merriam-Webster dictionary and pick a word at random. Just, go with the finger, boom. And then I have to think of something to talk about for 5 minutes or so. Maybe a story from my past, maybe something that pops into my head, and just talk about that word. Now, some of the words that we've had when we first started doing this segment 3 months ago, they included defile, nocturne, snobbery, spleen, that was a good one, ultra, bottom, chlorate. Last week, though, we got hit with erythrocyte. That was a fun one. And now, this time, my wife's finger lands on a simple word, a word with tremendous possibilities. If only it had moved a little bit up the page, because the word that she chose was down, D-O-W-N, down. But she's holding me to not using any version of the word down, because her finger fell on one particular definition. And it's the 6th definition down, the one that is a rolling, treeless upland with sparse soil, usually used in the plural, as we would say of like Churchill Downs or Watership Down, in those terms, or if it made me instantly think of that marvelous Van Morrison's and the Chieftains album, the Star of the County Down. Right? Okay, I've been to Ireland, but I don't know if this is the time for an Ireland story, because I always tell my Seamus the Urine Man story. So no, I won't go there for down or downs. And again, I'm not going to use all these other definitions that I possibly could for that. But what it did make me remember or think about a little bit, because this is going back 40 to 45 years or so, was being New Yorkers that my family was. We lived in Brooklyn and then moved to Long Island. But one of the things that we would do for fun, that my dad enjoyed doing, was either going to the track or using OTB. And then, this is sparked in my mind from Churchill Downs, which is where the Kentucky Derby, of course, is held. Now, I never went... I was going to say, I've never been to the Kentucky Derby, but that is not true. That is not true. Thanks to the American Theater Critics Association a few years back, we all went to the Actors Theater in Louisville and did a little bit of tourism, and they took us to Churchill Downs on a morning. There was no racing going on. It was not that yet that time of year, but it was kind of cool to walk around and see where the horses ran and see where the women normally would be wearing those big bonnets and things and the winner's circle. That was neat. That was neat. I don't have any interesting stories about it. I can just say, hey, I was there, not on Kentucky Derby Day, as the Rolling Stones would have paraphrased it. Anywho, but it did make me think of horse racing, which has never been a big thing of mine. Just never got too into it. But I know that we did go to Aqueduct a few times when I was a kid. And I think they had one time harness racing at the Preakness. Or there was another New York racing place. And by the way, if any of our New York listeners on Facebook can remember what the hell it was, maybe it was called the Preakness, but there's Aqueduct, and then there was, help me out here, the other place that people would go. Well, okay, so do I have any memories? So I just remember being at the actual racetrack with my dad and standing on the line, waiting for Dad to place the bet, and then coming back and then watching the horses go around. It was kind of a fun event. I sort of liked it. Even though I never got into gambling, never really got into horse racing, there was kind of this nice way that the afternoon goes. You stand in line for a few minutes. It isn't like Disneyland. You're there for 45 minutes because people have to clear their bets very quickly. So you do that. You get up. You walk around. You have smelly, nicotine-stained fingered men all around you. You come back. You sit and you watch a pretty exciting race of beautiful animals going around a green or a brownish track. It's pretty. It's one of the reasons baseball is such a harbinger of spring. Because it isn't just the players and the game itself and hitting the ball and what might happen. It's also the open air. You're looking at this beautiful field and the mounds and the white bases. And it's just, it makes you think of renewal in some weird way. And watching horses go around and around the track. And I don't want to get into whether they're mistreated or whether they're given drugs or what the jockeys do to themselves to make sure they maintain weight. I don't want to get into the negativity of that. For 2 minutes, it's beautiful to watch horses try and win a race, right? And then that's over. You got the adrenaline rush, and then you have a little while to kind of calm down, tear up your tickets if you lost. And I also remember just thinking, what a cool thing that show is in racing. Because everybody would go broke, and it wouldn't be as much fun if they just had win, right? Or even place. But this idea that you've got maybe 9 or 10, 12 horses on a field, and you could place a low-level bet for show, and you had a real shot. Maybe a 25% shot of getting your money back. Didn't have to win a pile, but you could pay $2, right? And you get a 25% chance of at least making that back and another couple of dollars. Because we were inveterate gamblers. We're just a middle-class family looking to have a little fun. So if you put down $2 and you get back 5 or 8, that kind of makes your day. You have one race that pays for your entire afternoon. That's a win, man. It's like my mother-in-law loves the lotto tickets. I wish she didn't, but she loves playing lotto. So if we'll get her as a gift, we'll get her some lotto tickets here and there. And if she just makes enough, if she scratches off a $1 lotto ticket, and gets $1 back, to her that's a win, as opposed to a push. Because she didn't lose anything. And she had the excitement, the fun of wondering, hey, maybe this is it. Maybe this is it. Oh, it isn't. But I didn't lose. I didn't, the dollar that went out came back in. Okay. And of course she'll immediately spend another $1. Fine. So that's her thing. And I get that with playing for show. Because you have these 3 shots. Your horse can come in first, second, or third. And I always wanted to play that, unless you had a really special horse. That was the thing for me and Mom and Dad. It wasn't about, oh, this horse is an amazing favorite, or, oh, we have a tip from a bookie named Gino. No, it was more like, if there was a horse named Farfel, we would put like $3 or $5 on to win. If there was a horse like Passover, or named after Lester's Chance, or Esther's Joy. Oh, well, hey, it's a family name. David's something, Phillips this, Brenda's that. Absolutely, gotta pick that horse, probably to win, unless the odds were absolutely ridiculously against it. Or something Jewish, Israel was in the name, or if the jockey had a Jewish name by some miracle. It's like, okay, that one. That's the horse. We gotta really root for that one. Yeah, that was fun. It was just fun. And I don't remember OTB being much fun at all. I remember that being more like a DMV, just standing there. A DMV where there's smoking and ash on the floor. I mean, everything you touched was they're like a cab stand for people who were never smiling. Right? I never felt unsafe, or I never felt like it was an unsavory place. We didn't really go at night. But sometimes I wanted to put some money down at OTB and have that experience. You could watch the TV there, physically there, It wasn't the same, though. It just, and for those, by the way, maybe people don't even know what this is. I don't know if they even do it in New York anymore. But OTB stood for off-track betting. So it'd be this hole-in-the-wall little storefront that dozens of guys would go in. You'd never find a woman there, but dozens of guys would go into to make and place bets, just the way that they would at the track. And then they could stand around, watch a TV of the horse race after they placed their bets. And literally, it's like going to the track, but you could do it in the middle of Brooklyn or Manhattan. And I remember the green awning of the place as well. I don't know if I'm calling up memories of any folks who lived in New York. If I did, feel free to message me or write me during the week. But when I think of the word down or downs in terms of rolling land, sparse, treeless, even then, even though that doesn't sound like a beautiful grassy knoll, it's still about as far away from OTB as you can get. But it did make me think of horses, and I guess in the modern day, at least from the definition, what I now think of is marmots and prairie dogs, which are one of my favorite things ever. Where if we're going to the local mall and want to stop in TJ Maxx or Kohl's or the Target that they have there, and they've got these open fields that the earth is very sandy and rocky and not conducive that much to grass. And what will happen is, certain times of year, just dozens of holes appearing almost overnight. And then the heads pop out of the holes, and they're like squirrels. But, and I've talked about this before on the show, squirrels are fine, but I grew up with squirrels. We saw squirrels, tons of squirrels in Brooklyn, or visiting Manhattan, Washington Square Park. And we had bunches of squirrels on Long Island in our backyard and on the streets and in the trees. But prairie dogs, which are essentially tailless sort of squirrels, or they're more rat-like squirrels, but they're so cute. And I can just sit there or stand there and watch them from afar for minutes at a time, just poking their little heads. Or if they see me and they get nervous and they want to alert the other prairie dogs around them that there's a lunatic Jew running around, their tail starts to flap and they go, beep, 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 beep. They make this cheeping, annoying, chirping noise. And yet it's still all so incredibly cute. And I'll walk towards them and try and approach them. And it's always that game of how close will they let me get. So one will be on top of his little hole, his dugout hole, and he'll be all the way standing up. Soon as he notices me, whoop, goes down, gets right into the hole, just to the neckline. Beep, 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 beep. I get closer and closer, and then there's always that one little moment when I take one step too much, and then zoop, down the hole, gone. And if you approach the hole, you cannot see them because it's so subterranean. And the burrows run all through for like miles underneath this down land, if you will, downs of land. And actually all you see if you approach some of the prairie dog holes is poop. Is you see their fecal droppings lining the rim. Because, hey, they're fairly clean rodents. They don't want to shit where they live, so they do it right around the edge. So visitors can enjoy it. But I do love them, even though they are, of course, a nuisance locally. And I'm sure they're terrible on farms and ranches where there are horses and cows, because those holes come up and the animal isn't looking. That's a broken leg, and it's just awful. But, when I think of downs now, of rolling treeless land with sparse soil, my cute little prairie dog friends, and also the skeezy men at the OTB, and fun times at Aqueduct back when I was a kid. And that is Dave's Big Dictionary for this Saturday, April 7th, 2018. Thank you guys so much for staying with me for this whole program. We're actually shorter than we usually are, despite all the stuff that we've done today. What else did I want to play? What did I want to play? Oh, here we go. Forgot that. Boom. So what does it remain for me to do? It remains for me to thank so much Iris Rayner Dart, our new friend of the neighborhood, our guest. Remember that if you are in San Jose, California, over the next couple of weeks, go see her musical, The People in the Picture. It was on Broadway, and we didn't really make that much of it, but we talked about Dozier Holland before. Let's not forget Mike Stoller and Jerry Lieber and the songs that they wrote, like Hound Dog. Well, Mike Stoller and Artie Butler were the guys who composed the music for The People in the Picture. So, whoa. It's at 3 Below Theater in San Jose from April 12th through the middle of May. For more information, go to 3belowtheater.com, and that's the number 3, the numeral 3, below theater with an ER.com. And also, hey, if you're in London later in the fall, remember that Beaches, the musical, will be trying out there. So thank you again so much to Iris Rayner Dart for being with us. And big thank you to Danny Duraney for arranging that interview. And thanks so much to Rabbi Saul Solomon for conducting it. Remember that Rabbi Saul has a website called ShalomDammit.com, Shalom, D-A-M-M-I-T, ShalomDammit.com. This is where you can hear and read his many, many rabbinical reflections, his many sermons. I think they're pretty great. Even greater, his episodes that he did of a TV show for Long Island Cable about 10 years ago called Shalom Dammit, Rabbi Saul Solomon's Peace, Love, and Acid Reflux Hour, which was only a half hour. Check them out. 10 episodes. They're all at shalomdammit.com, as is his one-man show, An Evening with Rabbi Saul Solomon. They taped it back at the Richmond Shepherd Theater in 2011, I think it was. Definitely worth your time and attention, and even thinking perhaps of bringing it back to New York next year. Or if not that, something else involving Rabbi Saul. It's in the most absolute early possible thinking stages. But I'm thinking about it, and I hope you are too. Rabbi Saul Solomon, ShalomDammit.com. Gotta give a huge thank you to my darling and adorable wife, Joyce, for spending the first part of the broadcast with me, and, of course, most importantly, bringing me my ever so necessary shake. And this is not an advertisement. This is literally just something that soothes my throat and is tasty. Thank you to all of you who tuned in from the beginning of the show. Thank you, Facebook, for working pretty well this time. I only had to stop the camera, or it stopped on me one time. The whole show. It waited till we were finished with a segment after the first hour, and now it's been with us this whole time. So yay! Stuff working. That's a relief. Thank you to the folks who are still keeping UNC Radio running for a little while longer, and especially the folks who are interested in getting involved in this radio station and making sure that once they get through whatever physical, structural stuff they want to do to this building, that the station will come back and be here for not just me, but the students and faculty here at this troubled university with 14,000 students and I think it's like 500 full-time faculty and 200 part-time faculty and staff. There's a lot of people who depend on this place, and I think there should be a radio station that speaks to them and that is there for them. Well, I am here for you every Saturday from 9 until noon, except, next Saturday, the 14th, I've got to take off because we have something to do in Denver later that afternoon, and we can't work it time-wise. So, sigh. Dave gets a vacation. All right, not too bad. And it'll just make you crave the next episode of Dave's Gone By that much more. And remember, coming up in either 2 or 3 weeks, we got a very cool guest. We have veteran playwright Robert Patrick, the author of Kennedy's Children that played on Broadway back in, the 1960s. One of the founding people, one of the early people in that nascent off-Broadway movement that spawned Cafe Chino and La Mama and Theater for the New City. As a matter of fact, he's also very well known for a play called The Haunted Host and for a show that he wrote all those years ago called Judas, that is being revived by the Phoenix Ensemble at the end of April and into May. It's Robert Patrick, veteran playwright, gay playwright. He will be in the neighborhood Obviously not next week, but either in 2 or 3 weeks, and we're very excited about that. Well, I guess that about does it for me. So enjoy the week ahead. Let me see. I don't have the weather up in front of me, but I know it's going to be a weird sort of time that we'll go through, because certain days next week it's going to be in the 70s. There's going to be one day, I think it's Wednesday or Thursday, where it'll pop up to 80 degrees and then go down to the 50s again the day after. So we still have some cold fronts coming through. I don't think we'll get any more snow, but don't, someone said to us this week that April tends to be an even weirder or sometimes snowier month than March in Colorado, just because of the unsettled weather patterns. I just know that it looks sunny out there right now. So it looks really kind of nice. Take advantage of it. Enjoy the weekend. Thanks so much to all these folks, Jose and Michael and David and Bruce and Chris and Nancy and Laura, who just signed on a moment ago. Well, we're ending the show. Here's a song that is actually, I'm going to send this one out to Rabbi Saul Solomon, because it's from the show that we've been talking about, that Iris Rayner Dart wrote the book for on Broadway and now out in San Jose. It's called The People in the Picture. So it's rather Jewish. The singers here are a couple of Jewish guys, Chip Zion and Louis J. Stadlin, from the 2011 Broadway cast of The People in the Picture. Remember who you are, and Gone By.